just the way that it's supposed to be. You came in and rescued me, and now I'm living for you forevermore. I'm trying to figure out how your love is so deep. You still show favor on me after all those times I went astray. You never turned your back on me. Trying to figure out how your love is so free. You still provide the things I need, and even when I walked away, you showed your love and extended your grace. I was living in a world doing God knows what I wasn't supposed to do, doing what I could to avoid the rules. Didn't know who I was so confused, didn't know what to do. But your love was watching over me from 100,000 feet away above the clouds. You call my name out loud. I'm trying to figure out how your love is so deep. You still show favor on me after all those times I went astray. You never turned your back on me. I'm trying to figure out how your love is so free. You still provide the things I need, and even when I walked away, you showed your love and extended your grace. Lord, you extended my faith, changed from my old ways, and all those times I didn't know which way to turn, nowhere to go. Your love guided me from up above, never giving up. And all those times I walked away, you always rescued me. I'm trying to figure out how your love is so deep. You still show favor on me after all those times I went astray. You never turned your back on me. I'm trying to figure out how your love is so free. You still provide the things I need, and even when I walked away, you showed your love and extended your grace. It's so amazing how you love me. I can't believe that you still love me. Hey.
Time is running down, I know your Hoosha coming quick. They don't believe me. Watch he put down 4 chariots on this. That black rider calling you so you can perish with the sick. Red war coming strong to make you perish with the stick. White rider taking over with the arrows in his fit. All this death around you start to turn you pale cause it's stitch. All this trauma really start to make you well for the end. Cause you rather go through trauma than through hell in the end. It's a fact, we the end of times. As you blind when you driving on this narrow road, you can't ignore the signs. Don't hit the brakes, please hit the gas, you can't get left behind. Give or take, it's almost wedding day, I'm pulling up on time. It's getting late, gotta get that sin away, he ready for his bride. My oil burning in his lamp, I'll be right here when he arrives. By his side, standing in the light, it's real light, it's real life. Don't matter what you feel like, for you he kept them seals tight. I think these folks forget there ain't no grace in the end. You gon' end up with your hands over your face in the end. Time is running down, I know your Hoosha coming quick. They don't believe me. Watch he put down 4 chariots on this. That black rider calling you so you can perish with the sick. Red war coming strong to make you perish with the stick. White rider taking over with the arrows in his fit. All this death around you start to turn you pale cause it's stitch. All this trauma really start to make you well for the end. Cause you rather go through trauma than through hell in the end. I know you see what's happening, but shoot, it ain't that bad to me. No COVID, I can't catch disease, cause I know y'all watch after me. I'm really tryna say the streets, we're busy with these Sadducees and Pharisees who mad at me. We battling like Maccabees. I'm tryna think you at Captain Greek. I'm sorry, but I have to preach, cause time is ticking fastly, and all these folks still fast asleep. That's why we got the fastest sleep. For mercy for these precious souls. The world was cold long time ago. We thawing out the after freeze. It's getting high. Might need another man, start touching it. They claim they like the truth, but they ain't bout up. I loving it. I think they lost their love for this. There's walls watching everywhere, so it might be hard to trust in it. Excuses, only truth inside his view. Say, boy, he coming quick. Y'all rap this soon to come. We at the jump, he still ain't done with it. It's hard for you to stomach this. It hit you like 100 kicks. We kneeling for the truth. They kicked us out like Colin Kaepernick. Time is running down, I know your Yahushua coming quick. They don't believe me. Watch me put down 4 chariots on this. That black rider calling you so you can perish with the sick. Red war coming strong to make you perish with the stick. White rider taking over with their arrows in his fit. All this death around you start to turn you pale cause it's stitch. All this trauma really start to make you well for the end. Cause you rather go through trauma than through hell in the end.
Mamleket Kohanim, Kingdom of Priests, Culture, and Heritage Preservation, to preserve, support, and promote the culture, history, and heritage of African every people scattered worldwide throughout the diaspora. Objective is to raise awareness and support to assist those who descend from the ancient African every groups scattered throughout the globe with their desire to learn more about their history. The organization's efforts will be to connect with others of this heritage, scattered through the world through education, research, networking, media, and charitable efforts. Exodus chapter 19, verse 5 through 6, King James Version. Now therefore, if ye will obey my voice indeed, and keep my covenant, then ye shall be a peculiar treasure unto me above all people, for all the earth is mine. And there shall be unto me a kingdom of priests, Mamleket, Kohanim, and a holy nation. These are the words which thou shalt speak unto the children of Israel. 1 Peter, chapter 2, verse 9 through 10, 9sb 95. But you are a chosen race, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, a people for God's own possession, so that you may proclaim the excellencies of him who has called you out of darkness into his marvelous light. For you once were not a people, but now you are the people of God. You had not received mercy, but now you have received mercy. Here are our customs. We turn towards Jerusalem when praying. 2 Chronicles chapter 6, verse 38 through 39 says, If they return to you with all their heart and with all their soul in the land of their captivity, where they have been taken captive, and pray toward their land, which you have given to their fathers, in the city which you have chosen, and toward the house which I have built for your name. Then hear from heaven, from the dwelling place, their prayer and supplications, and maintain their cause, and forgive your people who have sinned against you. We blow the shofar, or trumpet every feast day and Shabbat. Numbers chapter 10, verse 2. Make yourself 2 trumpets of silver, of hammered work you shall make them, and you shall use them for summoning the congregation, and for having the camps set out. When both are blown, all the congregation shall gather themselves to you at the doorway of the tent of meeting. Here are some of the every Hebrew words we use. If you are interested in merchandise, please visit our website at https://mamleketkohanim.org. Please read if you are interested in becoming a monthly member, giving a donation, or becoming a volunteer. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. We thank Yah for again giving us another day that we can just give Him praise on this set apart day, on the Shabbat, a day that we rest and we worship Him to acknowledge Him as He rested on the last day after creation. And here we are doing this as well as an honor to Him, as a time for us to come together throughout the four corners to give Him praise and to meet with Him as well. We thank Yah for you coming to be a part of this service. It's just amazing what Yah is continuing to do in our life and how He continues to move us forward. And just hearing how there's so many people who are like, just all of a sudden, it's just like, being drawn to Yah. A lot of people have been calling me here recently, and I've been amazed or hearing how people should say that, they have a urge, a stronger passion to seek Him. And I honor that. I think that's what Yah is trying to do. He's really getting us to have a desire to really seek Him from the heart. And it's just so wonderful. So Shabbat Shalom, everyone. And I'm going to read Deuteronomy chapter 7. And we're going to start with the 6th verse, Deuteronomy 7. It's the 7th day. We're going to start on the 6th verse. For you are a holy people of Yahuwah, your El. Yahuwah, your El, has chosen you to be a people for His own possession out of all the people who are on the face of the earth. Yahuwah did not set His love on you, nor choose you because you were more in number than any of the peoples, for you were the fewest of all peoples. But because Yahuwah loved you and kept the oath which He swore to your forefathers, that Yahuwah brought you out by a mighty hand, redeemed you from the house of slavery, from the hand of Pharaoh, king of Egypt. Now therefore, Yahuwah your El, He is El, the faithful El, who keeps His covenant and His loving kindness to 1,000th generation, with those who love Him and keep His commandments, but repays those who hate Him to their faces to destroy them. He will not delay with him who hates Him. He will repay him to his face. Therefore, you shall keep the commandment and the statutes and the judgments which I'm commanding you today to do them. Then it shall come about, because you listen to these judgments and keep and do them, Yahuwah your El will keep with you His covenant, His loving kindness, which He swore to your forefathers. He will love you and bless you and multiply you. He will also bless the fruit of your womb, the fruit of your ground, your grain, your new wine, and your oil, the increase of your herd, and the young of your flock. In the land which He swore to your forefathers to give you, you shall be blessed above all peoples. There will be no male or female barren among you or among your cattle. Yahuwah will remove you from all sickness, and He will not put on you any of the harmful diseases of Egypt, which you have known, but He will lay them on all who hate you. You shall consume all the peoples whom Yahuwah your El will deliver to you. Your eyes shall not pity them, nor shall you serve their Elohims, for that would be a snare to you. If you should say in your heart, these nations are greater than I, how can I dispossess them? You shall not be afraid of them. You shall well remember what Yahuwah your El did to Pharaoh, to all Egypt, the great trials which your eyes saw, and the signs and the wonders and the mighty hand and the outstretched arm by which Yahuwah your El brought you out. So shall Yahuwah your El do to all peoples of whom you are afraid. Moreover, Yahuwah your El will send the hornets against them, until those who are left and hide themselves from you perish. You shall not dread them, for Yahuwah your El is in your midst, and a great and awesome El. Yahuwah your El will clear away these nations before you little by little. You will not be able to put an end to them quickly, for the wild beasts grow too numerous for you. But Yahuwah your El will deliver them before you, and will throw you into great confusion until they are destroyed. Will throw them into great confusion until they are destroyed. He will deliver their kings into your hand, so that you will make their name perish from under heaven. No man will be able to stand before you until you have destroyed them. The graven image of their Elohims you are to burn with fire. You shall not covet the silver or the gold that is on them, nor take it for yourself, or you will be snared by it. For it is an abomination to Yahuwah your El. You should not bring an abomination to your house, and like it come under the ban. You shall utterly detest it, and you shall utterly abhor it, for it is something banned. All right. Hallelujah. Praise Yah. Praise Yah. Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Mom and Yada. Shabbat Shalom. Miss Rosemary. Cousin Hazel. Bless you. And Cousin Atkinson. Bless you as well. So thank you all for joining. Let me blow the shofar. Hallelujah. Let us pray. Dear Yah, we just thank you for all the things you're doing and what you're doing to wake up your people. We ask you to help us continue to seek you with all our heart, mind, soul, and strength, for you are more than deserving of that. Help us to embrace you and allow your Ruach HaKodesh to just take control of our life. Help us to yield to you through your son, Yahusha, for we know that when we fall short, we thank you for the sacrifice that atones us for our sins, and we don't think that is a small thing. And as we just honor you, Abba, our Father, we just thank you for being that good Father that loves us, that cares about us, and wants good things for your children. So help us to also want to please you as a good children. Allow your face to smile, for you see your children doing what's well. And we ask you to be with us as we go about the rest of this service. Help us to be a delight in your sight, a sweet, pleasant aroma that's lifted up to you. And we just thank you for everyone who is able to come to be a part of it, and those who might see it later as well. We ask you to touch their hearts, their minds, and deal with all of us in the way that you desire to do so in this time in our life and in this season that we're living in this world. For we know that you have not forsaken us, even if we have at times forsaken you. We thank you for the love that you show as a good parent that always cares about their children, even when they go astray. We love you and we praise you. In Yahushua HaMashiach's name we do pray. Hallelujah. Amen. Hallelujah. So we're going to have my Isha to come and sing a song for us. Hallelujah.
What a mighty Yah we serve. What a mighty Yah we serve. Angels bow before him. Heaven and earth adore him. What a mighty Yah we serve. What a mighty Yah we serve. What a mighty Yah we serve. Angels bow before him. Heaven and earth adore him. What a mighty Yah we serve. We serve. We serve. What a mighty Yah we serve. Angels bow before him. Heaven and earth adore him. What a mighty Yah we serve. We serve. We serve. We serve. We serve. Angels bow before him. Heaven and earth adore him. What a mighty Yah we serve.
Hallelujah. Praise God. All right. So with that said, I think I did something wrong here. Give me a second. All right, so we're going to have our community Shabbat. We had it last week, and it was good to see all the faces and everyone who actually was able to come and be a part of that. So we try to do it at least once a month. So our next community Shabbat will be on March the 21st. And so please come out and come be a part of that. If you can, bring, guests as well. Everyone is welcome. That's why we call it community, to come and praise him together. And so that will be March the 21st. All right. The next, all right. And then we have our Mamlaket Kohanim luncheon coming up. Yeah, I think we got an E there instead of A, but Mamlaket Kohanim luncheon coming up this Sunday, so tomorrow. So tonight is the last time for you to sign up. Please try to sign up before 8 o'clock, 7 o'clock, so we can make the reservations for tomorrow. So got a lot of people already signing up, so it's good to be able to fellowship and actually come in conversation with people, right? So go ahead, don't wait. I know sometimes people wait, like, who else is going to sign up? So don't be that person, because there is limited space that we will have. So don't get mad if you're not able to attend, because all the spaces are gone either. So we just want to make sure that we're able to come together and talk and be human and show that brother and sisterly love of one ox and a cooties, right? Coming together, Akum, I would say, as well. So we just want to make sure that you're a part of that. All right, you go on Eventbrite to sign up for that. All right, the next one we have, all right, and we'll have a Purim service. We're trying to see how many people are going to be able to participate locally, and thankfully we have Miss Rosemary. She's going to help us to celebrate here online, and we'll basically be doing a service online just for the Shabbat, and after that we'll follow up with games, but then also as part of your own celebration. So like I was talking about either yesterday or at Bible study, last Shabbat or at Bible study, Yah has certain things for us to do as well, right? To show our dedication as individuals, as family. So it's not always waiting around for, other people to do stuff together. Sometimes, Yah wants you to fellowship together with your family, right? Or just with you and him, like the Day of Atonement. So make sure you do the things that, this is not a mandatory Moed, I would say, appointed time, but this is still a commemoration of what he's done and what he's doing on the earth for his people, what he has done. And we'll even talk a little bit about some of that today. All right. So the day that we had down was the 3rd. So, we start with the Mordecai fast. If you're able to fast on the 2nd, go ahead and do a fast. It was just like they did. It was a commemoration to remember what he's doing for us and that he will be delivering us, even though we still are. Today, we're still out there in the diaspora, right? We've still been scattered, just like they were. And we always wanted to make sure that we take time to ask him to work on our behalf, to give us favor, and to work things out so we can be back in the land with him forever, as we want to be when he returns, when Yahushua returns with, some of our loved ones, right, with the white robes on as well. So, and then between the 3rd and the 4th, if you can, do something special for the community, right? So it's not just a day for us just to have fun and just, think about ourselves. It's really thinking about our whole community. So if you have somebody, an elder, a child, or someone you can help, or even just donating something to a community center, or, doing whatever you can to bless somebody, right? So, go get some food to a homeless shelter or something. So, take this time, even if you're working, you can do it after work, right? So it's not a high Shabbat where you have to, not work. You can do it after work, but do something to glorify, his name, and to remember, in honor of the memorial that was done. And then also celebrate with your family, right? If you can, or at the Shabbat, if you can, share food, treats, we can do those type of things as they did as well. Give gifts to the kids, everybody once you become an Israelite, or know that you're Israelite, it's no becoming, you already know you are. So, as well as finding out that you are. So once you find out you're an Israelite, everybody's like, you can't do anything fun. Like, it's just, straight. Some people just do Leviticus 23, which I'm not knocking. At least they're doing that. That is what's required. But he also has given us times to celebrate him and celebrate the things that he's done through our lives. So, this is opportunity for you to, kids to enjoy them, to teach them about Purim and staying dedicated, and how Yah will stay faithful to us as well. Make it fun for the kids as well, right? It's not like we do what they do in Judaism. They go real far out, and maybe I'll show some of that next Shabbat, Yah willing. But kids learn as well by doing stuff. So we want to make sure we do it in honor of the celebration, and not just doing what they do on Halloween though. But we had our grandchildren. My granddaughter, she loves Hadassah, so got her little dress to put on like Hadassah and a crown, and got my grandson. He got a little sword and a shield, and gave him some candy, and they were happy, right? So they also will look forward to this celebration. They will remember this growing up too, right? So that's very important for us to teach the next generation after generation. So this is things that you can do with your family. You always don't need a crowd. Make it special for your family. And, if Yah allows next year or the year after for us to come together, then so be it. But this is a time that you can always celebrate with your family as well, and your friends, right? So people want to ask you, what's that all about? Get your chance to testify, right? To be a witness and tell them. It might help wake them up, have an interest, because, only thing they see is usually people, they try to always show the negative stuff. People on the street just yelling and kissing boots, right? People don't see the positive side of it, or not aware of a lot of the positive stuff. So, all right. So next. All right. So celebrating heritage and faith together. So, we still have a site, more people. I think it's like maybe 20 some people now. So please continue to invite people to come. I saw somebody new the other day. So, invite them to come, and we still share. I've been sharing the Black History Month stuff that just ended, that will end today, I would say. I'm always already a day ahead, unless this is not a leap year, is it? Well, it should end today. I don't think there's a 29th. No 29th this year. So, I've been sharing stuff in there, and then Cootie Deneen, she's been sharing like paint, coloring sheets and stuff for the kids. I like that. Some people sharing music in there. If you got music, share it, and like make sure there's no cursing or nothing, but share it in there, right? So people can hear it. If you got a business or whatever, we try to do stuff to lift people up. This is what this is about. It's not about a whole bunch of doctrine and stuff sharing. It's okay to share videos and stuff, but it's not about a whole bunch of doctrine and debating. This is about how we can lift each other up, right? So feel free to join that, and invite your friends to join it as well. As long as they know you or somebody that's in there, they can actually join. People have been trying to join, and they don't know anybody, so I had to reject them. So we want to make sure it stays safe. One person might have got in. I got to go and check. But we want to make sure we build in our community, even if you're not local here, and you might think you might come every now and then, or try to come one time, even ever in the next 10 years. That's fine as well. You can able to join. We just do that so people at least know that we're local to this Raleigh-Durham area, and that we're Messianic, right? We want people to know who we are as a people, so they'll know what they're joining to as well. All right. So, all right. So the Mamleket Kohanim, I still got to fix that too. See another E there. So one of the things here that I want to go over is that last week I did come across this thing about the Moolah Man, and just to let you know, I forgot to put the other thing. But I'm still trying to utilize some of the AI capabilities to expand some of my research and stuff. But I found out that AI just comes up with stuff. So, I try to do my due diligence. I usually ask it 10s and 20 questions. So with this, I know that there's a Murray Man, as we see at the very top, Murray Man. That is true, with the Mendi and the Mendinkas and stuff. So it is all that in the white is still the true. It's the red part, the Moolah Man. And I wonder why I never heard of a Moolah Man, but, I asked AI why to make it up. It said, I just took the Maury Man and made it sound like a Southern blacks at the time, I guess, which is a little racist to me. But like we couldn't speak the regular language, so he made up a language and he made this up, the Moolah Man. So Moolah Man was not a real thing. That's supposed to be the elders. I want to make sure we teach what's right and true, and you'll see some more of that today, because what's true is true. So We want to make sure that we people that can defend our beliefs and the facts that we have, but those sayings as well, the one in red, those are real sayings, but the mullah part was not correct. And one of them, so, it was the elders that said that, where it says in the second one, where it says, where it says Gullah quotes about the mullah man, and it says, the mullah tell we the Israel people. He made that up. It's really the one that below it, where it says them African teachers say we come from the book. That's what they actually said in the quote. So be careful with AI. It's going to try to make up something the other day, and I was like, why did you try to make it up? Because I was talking about basically, I thought you wanted to still have this research or something crazy. So I did have it a letter. I didn't have time to put. I said write a letter to ask people for forgiveness, and it did it, but I forgot to put it in here. So I did it earlier this week, but just want to make sure we clean that up as well. Don't want you to go around like I was and trying to find out what a mullah man was with my relatives over in Africa, but they were able to help me with the rest of that. All right, so next, and this is the other thing, that was the other slide, but the Rechabites, Billy Simmons, this is a man, I don't think I talked about that last week, but Billy Simmons, he was a person that came from, he said, from I can never think about that island. What's the island? Madagascar, outside of Africa. And he said that he comes from the Rechabites, that he actually descend from the Rechabites. And when he was in Charleston area, he actually said he couldn't. He only place that he wanted to worship was with the Jewish people, even though they weren't accepting him. And so we were talking about Rechabites last week, so I forgot to incorporate that part of the lesson. But the even Euro-Americans also called them Rechabites. So anybody who didn't, avoid alcohol that was African American, usually enslaved in the South, they called them Rechabites too, because of the way that they lived was similar to what the Rechabites said. But the mullah man part, that's the part that, I want you to ignore, to wipe out your memory there. All right. I'll be more careful, and I'll put AI stuff now just so to make sure that everybody's aware of where that source is coming from. But I usually ask for, give me a reference, give me a source, and I'll usually go read the source. But after about 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the morning, yeah, I kind of lose track of some stuff. So please forgive me. All right, so next. All right, so we also have Sarum. She's going to come with Black History Month, actually. Y'all willing? I have to, not have to, but I'm thankful that she's willing to allow us to interview her again about her book. So if all is well, after we record it, we will try to post that for everyone to see and have a discussion with her about a lot of the great stuff that she put in her book there. All right, so if you're actually interested also, and taking the Airway classes where you can learn Airway, which is, she shows you how it's connected to ancient Hebrew. Feel free to reach out to her and that information on that card there that she provided for us. All right. So next. So this is going back to the Hebrew Culture Month. We're going to be still talking about this area since we would be doing the interview. That's the reason why I did it. And it's going, I learned some stuff from this, right, as well, that I didn't know before. So we're going to get into some information, but, this was actually where Emmanuel Bowen talked about the kingdom of Judah, right? So that's important, kingdom of Judah. And it says that the inhabitants were said to be Jews. So that was the understanding that he had at that time about the people that was in that area. That was also on the Negro land map where they wrote about the kingdom of Judah, right? On the map there. But it's also, you can see Widda, Wuda, where's the other one? It's also called it a Judah as well. Yeah, a Judah, as the Portuguese called this place, which at that time had a population of 35,000, right? So the Portuguese called it a Judah, and that's important as well. All right, so next. All right, just showing you the DNA, because I showed that, a couple of weeks ago, that has some connections there, and it says 6% to Benin, right? Togo area, that's where the Airway people also live, and the Fon people. Also, I think I'm getting it from some of the Fon and the Airway. All right, so next. This is stuff. Okay, so this is a new one. So I wanted to show people, because I know a lot of people take the DNA, and it's very important that we do so. Hopefully we'll talk about it a little bit today in the lesson as well. But the top, well, let's start with the one on the, if you're looking at the screen like I am, be the far left. So left is Ancestry, right? Ancestry.com. And you can see there, a lot of times they put Nigeria as the highest. For me, they say either Igbo or Yoruba, depending on what site I'm on at the time. I've seen some connections to both people with those traits, that background. So, but then you see like the airway people, right? So the airway would have been like the Ivory Coast and Ghana. I think that says 15%. You see Benin, Togo, 6%, and also Senegal is part of that, right? And that, I think that says 3%. I need to get it closer because that's kind of small on my side. All right, so, and then you can see at the bottom, right? So do a comparison. So that's family tree DNA for my DNA. And then you can see Guinea and Sierra Leone, and that is 17%, right? And then you can see Senegal, Gambia, and Guinea-Bissau. So they kind of trying to link up similar areas, but you see that's 14%. Liberia and Ivory Coast, that's 6%. And Ghana, Togo, and Benin is 3%, right? So you can see on Ancestry, it grouped a little differently, Ivory Coast and Ghana, but they put 15%, right? On my family tree, they got Liberia, Ivory Coast at 6%, and Ghana, Togo, and Benin at 3%. So that, if you take the 6 and 3, that's 9%, right? But if you go to Ancestry and take Ivory Coast, Ghana, they have it at 21%. So you see a big difference in how they calculate. And it's always based upon the people that they DNA test, right? So if they have a different population of people in their pool, because they're not populating the whole, entire country, depending on who they have in their pool, it's going to vary. So that's why I'm saying don't always take percentages as 100% accurate. It all matters what's in their pool. So if they don't have Limba people, which most people don't, you're not going to see anything on your Limba DNA, right? On some of these tests. Like Family Tree, they do some Limba testing, from my understanding, because I know some of the people that actually is doing it. So so they might show some, might not. I don't know if they actually categorize it. Some people are doing their own private tests, so it might show up as Angola, like mine showing up in Angola because of the Yimby tribe. They're in Angola. Not saying that I'm connected to the Yimby. They're another side of the Limba that's on Zimbabwe and South Africa, but they live in Congo and Angola, and they're connected to the Limba tribe as well. So a lot of people don't know about them. But one of them found one of my cousins. He said it's a Limba cousin, so I don't know if that means Limba Angola or Limba Zimbabwe or Limba South Africa, but they're all over. Limba are all over the area, right? So, they're in Malawi and Mozambique and so forth. They're all over that area, so they spread out. So you can see there that do those comparisons there, and it also shows, you can see on the map at the top. I know I have Native American, so that's like the it shows more North America on Ancestry, and then on the bottom it shows more South America on my Ancestry for Native American. So you can see there's some differences there too, right? Of how they calculate that. So on other maps it will say other things too. So at the top is my heritage, and you'll see there, you see Nigerian, right? 73%. They just went all the way. So 73%, big change. And then you can see where it says West Africa, that is only showing 8.5. So all of West Africa, they're saying I'm only, and they're not counting Nigeria, I guess, 8.5 compared to the 73% Nigerian, right? And then they have Portuguese, right? They show Portuguese where the other two don't show Portuguese. So I'm just showing you this is because, just because something, if your great grandma told you Choctaw or Lumbee and don't show on your DNA, don't get surprised, right? So a lot of people say, oh, it's not on Ancestry, it's not right. So you can take another test and it might show on another test, right? Depending on the number of people that they calculate and how they actually put their numbers together as well. So like my uncle and my aunt on my father's side, they both show Portuguese on Ancestry. I don't show Portuguese on Ancestry, but you see on Heritage, I show 5% Portuguese. What Portuguese is that, right? So they had the Black Portuguese versus more European Portuguese, right? Both of them was European, so it's kind of hard to distinguish. I would say white Europeans, right? So which Portuguese is that counting, right? How are they doing their testing? So there's a lot behind that because people will say that my DNA matches the Malungans because it's Native American, it's Portuguese, and it's Angolan, right? So they connect. They say that's Malungan, right? So, but that doesn't mean that I'm from the mountains of Tennessee either, right? So Malungans are mostly, or Melungeons, some people say, down in Tennessee, and they were known to be like black-looking Portuguese people or dark-skinned Portuguese people. So just be aware of that. Don't make any tests, everything 100%. But this is going to be interesting as we go through it. But I wanted to make sure so you can actually see my DNA as compared to when we start talking about Benin and all that area too. So Portuguese is important, what we're going to discuss, as well as in the same area, Benin and Ghana and so forth, where the Ewe people live. All right. So next. So this is the part. I put AI information, so you at least be aware. But after studying and looking up some stuff early this morning, I found out that in Benin there was a fort, and the fort was called in Benin Sao Joe. I'm probably saying I'm saying this terribly. Batista de Ajuda. So there was a fort called Ajuda. Remember, that said that the Portuguese were the one that basically gave it its name. And it basically means St. John the Baptist of Ajuda, right? So I was like, wait a minute, St. John the Baptist of Ajuda, where's that? What's that mean? So I looked more into it, and it says Ajuda was the name of the royal district in Lisbon, Portugal, at the time named after Nossa Senhora de Ajuda, right? So that means Our Lady of Help in Portuguese. So the word Ajuda looks like it doesn't have to do with anything with the tribe of Judah. But later on, some of the people who they actually talked to in the area, right, they start studying them and seeing some of their states. So some of them said that they were like the other thing said, that they were connected to Judah. So now we got to work out, like, wait a minute, where does this difference come? They still said they had circumcision and stuff like that as well. But one thing I did find out also is that in that area, a lot of people know this, but I'm just going ahead and just read this. This is from the Nautical Magazine, a journal of paper on subjects and connected. I can't read the rest there. But it says, let me see, Barbet states that in the reign of Don John II and about the close of the 15th century, large number of Jews were expelled from Portugal and taken to the coast of southern Guinea. So southern Guinea, before they named it, all those different names that I should said before, Ivory Coast, Liberia, Sierra Leone, Togo, Ghana, all that was Guinea. I should have brought put a map up there. But all that was Guinea before. All right. So it says that basically that the Jews who were in Portugal, the black Portuguese, they were taken and expelled to southern Guinea. So, that would have been all that whole region of people. And that the island of St. Thomas, so there's St. Tomé, there was an island right below Nigeria area, which is not more than 100 miles from the mainland, was populated by mulattoes descended from the Jewish exiles and Anglo women, so Angolan women, right? It is possible that the Jewish type of character noticed at the Gabon and Luango may have originated from this source, but if so, it is unknown to the present inhabitants of the country, and it would have been somewhat singular if the Roman Catholic missionaries at Luango had not detected this circumstance instead of regarding them as a pure African family of Jews. So, they're basically saying that there is a connection, because what happened is when they kicked them out of Spain and Portugal, especially Portugal, they took the children and they put them in a slave, put them on that island. And it was like island of perdition. It was like a waste island with snakes and, everybody questioned, some people questioned, like, how do you put children on an island inhabited by crocodiles and snakes and all kind of stuff that could kill them? So evidently there's something else. And you don't marry children, so how do they get married and grow up and stuff? But they did basically, and there's people there living there now that's black, and we know that that's where they took the Jews the Israelites of Portugal and Spain and put them there, right? So going back to this part, what happened is that after slavery had ended, before slavery ended, that the island of the Benin, where we're talking about the fort, that basically was administered or watched over by Sao Tome and Principe. So they had their like governor, over all these different places in Sao Tome. So that's the one that was looking over the kingdom of Judah at the time. All right, so there's a connection to those different places. So some of the slaves even they were taken were, that they dropped off that were, black Portuguese Jews. They were dropping them off in Guinea. They were taking them to Sao Tome. They was taking them to Angola, right? And then they were, breeding the people there as well. And what had happened is when they set them free, some of the people went back to those places like Benin, and even some of the Brazilians, Afro-Brazilians, I guess you call them, that they actually went back to Benin as well, some of them. And they became like the elite people because now they have, some type of trade and skill, and they go back to that area, and now they're basically like the upper class of the kind of like what happened in Liberia too, right? The free people went there and they became the upper class, but there it actually became war. But at least in Benin it didn't happen that way. So even unto this day, the more elite families came from there. So they actually had some of the blood that was actually from the Spain and Portugal, right? The black Portuguese, the black Portuguese Jews that left Spain and Portugal. And if you have these surnames, so this is the AI part, right? So I asked them, which families do you have any records for them that was connected to the black royal family of Spain and Portugal? So these are the names that came up: Nunes, Enriquez, de Costa, Rodriguez, de Sousa, or de Souza, and Gomez. Yeah, Gomez, right? So I did do a search and I found people in my family that's black that have some of these names. And then they also have DNA from Africa, from Spain and Portugal, and some of them actually show as Sephardic Jews. So I thought that was amazing because even some of them have North Africa as well in their DNA, and that's where the descendants of King David supposedly went to North Africa to actually go into Spain. The Yaya Negro family that we talked about, that was one of the more elite classes in Spain and Portugal, knowing that they were black. So take a screenshot of that and run in some of those names. If you do our genealogy, run those names as we done in our workshop, and just see if any of those names pop up, and you'll be amazed about a lot of that. Okay, so just want to put it all together. So number one, one of the reasons they call it a Judah and was because it was a fort there, and the Portuguese word for a Judah means help. So the place Nossa Senhora de Ajuda, that was the Lisbon capital. In Lisbon, Portugal, that was the district of the royal family. All right, so they basically took the royal family name and put it in Africa for a Judah. Okay, now I don't know about Judah, Widda, Wuda, and how all those names were formed, but like I said, I'm gonna be just, if I find something, I'm gonna be just upfront and truthful. Even if there's other things going on in our community, maybe I'll figure out, maybe and add that back if I was wrong. But I'm just want to be 100% truthful in any kind of fact, so it help our people to move forward and not get caught up on memes and stuff that's not true. But then there's the thing when it actually comes to the people that got taken to Sao Tome, that was black Jews that mixed in, that was freed and went also to Benin. And also, not saying that the El Wayne people are not, because they have their traditions as well of circumcision and how they migrated over there as well, and they actually got mixed in with these other people as well. So it's just to kind of make sure you're aware of that. And Isha, click on that little link. You see that blue link there where it says Messianic Jews? Oh no. Can you click on that? Hold down Control. I don't know how it works on. Yeah. Okay. So this is actually an article that we have found that I found. I've put it out before, but you know, when you see this is when I first was trying to find out stuff myself, and I was waking up and trying to find all these facts. So this comes from the Times of Israel, and this is talking more about Nigerians, right? And they're basically questioning if they are real Jews or not because of their DNA. But this is not. I'm not focused on the Igbos right now. But if you scroll down until you see another picture, scroll down of some men standing around. Scroll down, down some more. Keep on. Keep on going. Yeah, right there. That one. All right, try to. Can you make it any bigger? So, To the Prophet is the one that's supposed to be like the Indiana Jones of Jewish people around the world, where he goes around and finding different Jewish communities around the world. And he's the one that found, not found, I wouldn't say found it for Europeans. We always are around, but discovered for Europeans about some of these different tribes, right? Well, I'll say the Western world that we live in today. Can't make it any bigger. Okay, so just scroll up. I'll try to read it. Go back up. Yeah, right there. It's just that top part in that article. It says, Prophet hopes that DNA can be used as part of the toolbox for understanding ancient migrations, a topic that fascinates him. He also pointed out that the DNA testing can be much more accurate for determining if Jewish tribes in Africa are connected to Spanish or Portuguese Jews who were expelled in 1492. Many ended up on the west coast of Africa and disappeared, making it extremely possible that they assimilated into local culture while still maintaining Jewish traditions, Parfit pointed out. So right there, he basically talks about how, some of the black Portuguese Jews were taken and put on the Guinea coast, right? And to die, basically. And some of them mixed in with the local population. So it's amazing that they put stuff out there right in front of our face, and you see a date for this article at the top? Just go back up to the top. I was just wondering what the date of this was. At the very top, maybe. Does it show a date?
August 11th, 2017.
2017 they put this out. How many people, this like 2017, like we've been trying to find information and fight for that long, and they had this information out ever since then. So it's just amazing what we missed that's right there before us. And this is the time of Israel, right? So this is not no conspiracytheory.com. This is the Israeli news that's talking about this, right? And To the Prophet is a professor at Florida International University, and very respected in all communities, Israel, European, everywhere. And he's basically talking about some of the black Portuguese that was dropped off in Africa, West Africa, right? So, all right, let's go back to the slide. So you can just, it's just amazing when you start making the connections and parallel. And that's the reason why it's so important for you to do your own lineage, at least. Some people scared of doing DNA, but I'm going to tell you, most people DNA is already out there. If you go to the hospital, they take samples, and a lot of times they don't tell you some of the stuff that they do, and it gets hacked. Some of your DNA and stuff, just like your records, you get those little cards saying, hey, I'm sorry, your information has been lost. Same thing in hospitals happens as well. All right, so next. And this is what I was talking about as well. I showed this before, but now let's make more of a connection what I was just talking about in the story. So I see, like I said, some of the black Portuguese were taken to Angola. Someone was taken to Brazil, right? Cape Verde, they were known that Cape Verde Island, there was a lot of them there that was actually dropped off. The Dominican University, there was a university in Dominican talking about first blacks, and they said the first blacks came to the New World, came to Dominican Republic, and they were from Portugal, right? Some came as free men, some came as slaves. And then we're talking about Ghana, so the airway, and that's some of the places that actually got mixed in there. And then we talked about the Guinea coast. You can see all this connected to you see airway, we talked about that already. You can see Israel, right? And that's a Sephardic Jew guy. So he's half Sephardic Jew and he's half Ashkenazi. Hope I'm part of the Sephardic Jew, but I could be connected. I found out I got some Ashkenazi DNA as well. But then you see Portugal there. So, got Portugal family member. Sierra Leone, Spain, Barbados, that's actually has as I think I said it here, but the oldest synagogue in the Western Hemisphere is in Barbados. And some people say it actually started off, had to be in the time that the Black Portuguese were running out, or the Portuguese and Spanish and the Jews was running out of Spain and Portugal as they were being, attacked by the Inquisition, and a lot of them ran to Barbados. So we talked, if you follow the Black History post that I talked about last week and that I'm continuing to put out, you will see that a lot of the Afro-Portuguese or Afro-Spaniards like Pedro Nino, and some of the other ones, Jacob Labanzo, right? They were Black men in America, and they were saying that they were, Black Portuguese or Black Jews even. So a lot of them actually ran to Puerto Rico as well. And then even at the end, when, we had Spanish Florida, some of them, when Spain, gave up Florida to the Britons, a lot of those Black Spanish, Black Portuguese people ran to Cuba as well. So actually some of the cousins that I just told you about that have those last names, they have very similar DNA as well. Not, they got more than me. I don't have as much as they do. So don't want to put don't want to mess up, sway you one way or the other. But I know my great-great-grandfather was a Black Portuguese. So one of my many, because you got a lot of different grandfathers and stuff. So he was considered to be mulatto. And, we had Black people, from my understanding, family history, that used to come and speak to my great-grandma in Portuguese. And they were real dark skinned Blacks that had straight hair, and they could speak Portuguese with her. She could speak Portuguese, they said. So it's just amazing how, those things start coming together. And I want to make sure that you seek it out as well. Whatever, they mix with Native Americans too. So you see Native Americans there, right? So as they come over here single, they had to mix with somebody. So then a lot of times they mix with different Native American groups, like the Lumbee, right? The Tuskins, Kaharis here as well. They said Black Native Americans. They say they Black Cherokees, some of the Kaharis here in North Carolina. So, all right, so next. All right, so going back to this, right? So we talked about Widdah, Kingdom of Judah, and you can see there, you see the door of no return there in the top left that I talked about. You can see there on that Africa map where it has the circle at the top left, you see Widdah or Ouidah. So that's like some of the slave ports that were being sent out of at the time. And then, so that's important because now, next slide, you can see, my slide messed up there. You can see that that they're actually having a year of return in Benin, and they're asking people to come back, to go back to Africa, kind of like they did in Ghana. This is one of my cousins. She's Fawn, and she says she has Congo and Igbo as well. So I don't know what side I'm connected to her, but she's trying to push this year of return there in Benin. So, I think Benin has free passports and stuff there too, but just, they're not going to say they're Israelites. That's actually where voodoo started, right? So any community started connected to voodoo, Louisiana, Haiti, you have a connection probably to Benin, right? Because that's where voodoo is. That's the birth of voodoo. So that just shows you, based upon customs and stuff, how you can connect back. Even in the Caribbeans, there are some people that will connect, have voodoo around them. So if that's true, that shows you, you're probably connected to the people of Benin, Ghana area as well. And I think Sarah might talk a little bit about that too. So, but it also is interesting that in voodoo, they do libations, right? They do stuff that's cast lots, right? It's not that is good, but it's things that were done in the Bible, right? And that's the amazing piece to me as well, because the Israelites got kicked out because they start doing it for the wrong reasons. So they should be getting circumcised on the 8th day, just like, the Ewe and other people do, right? That's in that area as well. Get circumcised and pour out libations and do all kind of other new moon customs. So you'll hear her talk about more of that better than I can. All right, so next. All right, so here's some videos that my cousin, she sent me a while back, and I just want to share to you, just kind of, hear it from their perspective. These are in reference to, their tours and stuff. So it's just not going to be the complete thing, but I thought it'd be good to allow you to hear it also. All right. You,
Where are they?
are you already downloaded them?
I didn't see any videos.
I sent you an email. Okay, so my wife didn't download them yet, so we'll come back to those maybe next time or another time. She didn't realize she had to download those, but you can check your email if you hit one of them. It shouldn't take long to download.
Okay.
All right, but go on to the next while you're doing that. I can still talk through some other stuff.
Okay.
All right, so what we'll do as well is just show some more of the little video that we had with the interview from the first interview. I just want to get you at least aware of some of the stuff she said last time we met with her. So when you do it the next time, it's not like you are brand new to all of this. So that's the reason why I've been showing this for the last couple of Shabbats other than last Shabbat. All right, so you got that video at least from last week? Okay, so we'll at least show that one, and then just for a little bit, it's not to run too much time over, but then we'll show the other little clips after that. All right. You remember where we stopped off from last time?
Yeah, she was talking about the name.
Okay.
Worship, he would at times do a sacrifice, and he would do an animal sacrifice, and he would sprinkle the blood on his household members. And
Interesting.
what my grandmother described to me really was so astonishing to me, because that was exactly what the German missionary had written in his book about a man who was worshiping the Most High Mau, and he had a sacred hut that nobody was to enter it. So I took that and I said, well, that's it. That's the smoking gun. Now I know that we are. I heard it before in my childhood. Our elders say it. They even say it during Durbas and, family gatherings, and they'll tell the story of how we left the northeast of Africa and came down through exiles all the way to where we are, which is spread out on the west coast of Africa. And so for me, that was the smoking gun. I now knew, and that was the beginning of my so-called awakening and my studying. I really plunged myself into studying all of those things, especially our language. And when I discovered that truly our language is ancient Hebrew, because if we are the people and we maintain the name Hebrew, which is Evel, then we must still speak the language. So I discovered that, yes, we do speak the language. However, we are oblivious to the significance of the language. So when it comes to the ancient Hebrewness of the language, deeper study is required. Because when I started looking at the names in the scriptures, because that's really where the language is stored, because our names traditionally, all our names have meanings. We don't have any names that don't mean something. And that's the same thing with biblical names. And I found out that the names were transliterated, although the text was translated many times over, and we have it in English now. And obviously, there are things that are missing in translation, or that are missing that cultural zest, in some of the text. But when it comes to the names I discovered are actually they tell the story. The names are not just taken by happenstance. The names actually are placed there strategically. And
they're applicable to the knowledge that you're finding out.
Absolutely. The genius of our ancestors is in the way that they actually named people and places. And it just launched me, it propelled me into a whole different, trajectory of studying the language. I'll stop there and wait for your next question. Thank you.
Okay, no, you
Good
feel
stuff.
free to you feel free to go. We're here to interview you. There's no shorting it up. Feel free to keep on going, but we appreciate that. My next question is, what's your thoughts on the ingathering?
Well, that is one thing that I haven't really delved into a lot. But I do think that it's not gonna happen by like abracadabra. I
Yes.
do think that we also have to put some effort towards it. Because anytime that Yah rescued Yasara, which is the ancient Hebrew way of saying Israel is Yasara. It just means the congregation of Yah, the people of Yah.
Yeah.
Anytime that Yah rescued his people, it was never like snap your finger and we're rescued.
Voila. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So it really took us also making some very strong decisions and based on faith to choose to follow Yah, to choose to do the right thing, even though for the sake of our survival. So I do think that we do have to do something. We do have to make the sacrifices. That is, if we have to forego certain pleasures, forego certain, indulgences, in order for us to prepare ourselves and our families, then we do need to do those things, and we also, most importantly, should not be an island, because Yah always dealt with Yasara collectively. So we do need to bring our brothers and sisters into the awakening first.
I think that's so important is that we are doing this collectively. It doesn't matter if we are local or regional or countrywide or, throughout the continents, right? It is a collective thing. So that's the reason why I don't feel like we should be calling ourselves anything other than Israel, right? Like, other than, unless you know what 12 tribe you come from. But that's how Yah is going to get us. If everyone, me and Elder, we talked about this, and there's a video with the Limba Elder Cohen Hamadichi. I don't know if we talked about it in that video, but we talked about it too. It's like, when will the Limba become Levites, right? With all the Igbo, right? Igbo, they said, means Eber, right? Eber means Hebrew, right? So the Ewe say that their name means Hebrew, right? From Eber. So when are we going to start calling ourselves in the way that we've been supposed to be called, as collectively, right? So all the different groups that we have here in America, all the different beliefs, it's just crazy. Even though we all say we all connected together as African Americans, we got so many different belief systems and stuff. It's just, to me, it's just so eye-opening. But then even in Africa, right? So the tribalism between different tribes, right? Like they all say they're Israelites. So when they're going to come together as Israel, right? For us to all to come together. So that's the important piece, is that, even there's no isolation that we should be doing. We should call ourselves Mamleket Kohanim, because that means kingdom of priests, right? That's what Yah called us. But from an organization standpoint, eventually this organization should go away, and we should just be the people that Yah has called the true Mamleket Kohanim, the people that Yah has called us to be. And so, we shouldn't be cliquish. We shouldn't be just thinking about ourselves. I know we have different belief systems and stuff as well. I'm very peculiar about certain things, like you got to believe in the Messiah, but that doesn't mean I'm not going to talk to people all together, right? Even though people know I'm against polygamy and stuff, I'm still going to be nice and cordial with the people that's there and try to get them out of polygamy, right? But it's still going to be out of love. It's not going to be out this hate fighting stuff, right? You got to be careful with the back and forth. Times you got to stand up for your people because sometimes people get drifted away. So, I feel like as a leader, sometimes I have to say stuff, but I rather for people to come. I usually try to reach out to people behind the scenes, and some people don't want to meet. It's just me. It just blows my mind. Like, why do you want to meet? Can't we talk? But, they want the louder voice. They want to be the one that's heard and in front of everybody else. So sometimes people think that the person with the loudest voice is the person that's right? The people that have the largest group behind them, even though the Bible said broad is the way that leads to destruction, but the people that got the most people, that's the people I'm gonna listen to. And that's not always right as well. We need to be listening to the word, not to the few, not to the majority, but what the word says do. And that's the reason why we need to figure out how to build together with one another throughout the four corners. Especially, he said, go to the lost sheep of Israel. He said, don't go on the way to Samaritan, don't go away to Gentiles. But eventually that he was even out there, trying to reach out to the Canaanite woman, allowed the Canaanite woman to be blessed, or the Roman guard, he's talking about, bless my servant, he's sick. He said, you don't even have to go, just go ahead and just say the word, right? And he said, what great faith, even among the Gentiles, that he was trying to get the Israelites to do. So, I try to focus a lot on our people right now because it's an important stage, but if Gentiles come up, we got to, reach them as well. But we got to make sure that we really focus on trying to be the people first, right? Like, how can we be a light to the nations and we don't even know what that means, or we're not doing things in the right way? So we'll continue to play this for a little bit because we're getting around time, but and then we'll try to jump over to some of the other videos, and then we'll go into the lesson. But you can see this video as well, so you can see that we're only like halfway through. So take the time and go and look at this video. We probably won't show it next week, but we try to show, if we record with her, do the interview, do it tomorrow, we'll try to show that one, or at least make it release next week. But make sure you go. There's a lot of other videos there. So a lot of things that I post about for Black history and stuff, there's videos for some of that. So make sure you go into the list, look at the history. Don't just look at the new stuff. Go back and look at some of the old stuff as well. And, hear all the good interviews that we were able to do, or information that we were able to find. All right. So we'll continue to play this just a little while longer.
It's so important, because I think that our deliverance is delayed because we're not rapidly bringing our brothers and sisters into the fold.
Okay. That's great. That's a great, honest question. Great.
Can I ask
Yeah,
a
sure. You
question?
got anything to
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just amazing. Some of the stuff she even talks about, even how she said, I think it's your grandfather that sprinkled the blood. One of your
My great-grandfather.
great-grandfather, it just makes me think about how they go on Mount Horeb, and even Moses, after he gave the covenant, he sprinkled the blood on the people. So
Yep.
a lot of people don't realize a lot of this stuff is even in the Bible as well.
Yes.
But like when he's even talking about it in gathering, I know here, I know you're also back and forth between America and also in Africa. But here, there's so many, it seems like we first came together, and then there was a whole bunch of division that happened, between different, and I know also in West Africa, I deal with some of the different tribes like the Akan and the Ashanti, and I heard about the Anglo and the Fan, and all the Yoruba, and a lot of these people are connected to the Israelites. So I just wonder, even in Ghana, how much is that collection being, or is there still division? Because the Akan is not the same as the Airway, right? I mean, from tribal
Right.
clan type of thing, but they still have the same type of connection back to Israel. So could you kind of give me your thought, or what you have observed around that too, in reference to West Africa?
Yeah, so we have tribes, or let me call it ethnic groups, but they're tribes. And then we have sub-tribes or clans within that. And the dialects, the language is also broken down into dialects along those lines as well. In Ghana, we have a lot of tribes in Ghana, and a lot of language. I think some 50 or so languages in Ghana alone. And Ghana is like the size of the UK, so compared to the rest of sub-Saharan Africa, Ghana is quite small. you know.
Yeah.
So, and if with that little piece of land and so much diversity is quite amazing, you
Yes.
know. And so when it comes to Ghana, the dominant ethnic group or tribe is the Akan. The Asante, the proper pronunciation is Asante, not Ashanti. The Asante are part of the Akan tribe. The Akan is a huge tribe. They're in Ghana and they're in Ivory Coast as well. And whenever we have so many tribes living together in such a small space, ideas interchange. You know, we cross the tribal barrier with our ideas, and even we share some language as well. When I was growing up, what I learned from my Akan friends and neighbors was that Akan history takes them to Egypt, and that the Akan group, they were rulers in Egypt, was the story back then. But with the awakening, there are some who are coming out and saying, no, we are Israelites. And I'll have to say there's, you know, there is some evidence for and there's some evidence against as well. That's not for me to say. I do know it's quite complex because there's certain caliphates within the Akan whose customs are very different from others. For example, circumcision. Circumcision is not widespread. It's not all Akan circumcised. Like for example, the Asante, they traditionally did not circumcise. Meanwhile, the Fanti, who are also Akan, circumcised, and you know, so on and so forth. And then you have the tribal identity, like you are, for us, the Eves, you are of the tribe of your father, and you are of the family of your father. It's we trace you through your paternal line. It's not so for the Asante, they trace through their maternal. But for the Fantis and some other Asantes, they trace through their paternal. So I say that to say that there's some complexities and the lines are a little bit blurred. And that history has a lot to do with that. Because there's been times where, you know, certain people conquered, you know, others, and then the customs of the people just married or just merged, and or you can say they superimposed on one another. You understand? Right.
Yeah.
So, but really, for the most part, I would say that we all have very concrete, verifiable evidence of our Hebraic origins. You mentioned the Anglo. The Anglo are actually part of the Ewe people. They're really, there's a lot, let me just say, there's a lot of evidence that points to them as being a Levitical tribe, or part of the Levitical tribe, because they cannot be the only, because we know Yasara was scattered, and so, you know, Judah is not only going to be in West Africa. You have Judah scattered, and you have Levi is not only going to be in West Africa, Levi is scattered as well, and so on and so forth. But there's a lot of concrete evidence that points to the Anglo people being of Levi, but there's also a lot of evidence pointing to them also being Judah as well. So there is also that mixing of the tribes that happens. I'll tell you, the Anglo, for example, some of the evidence is that their name in and of itself means scribe.
Mm.
That's the meaning of Anglo. It just means scribe. And then they have their capital town, which they named themselves, is actually the name of Koath, who is a son of Levi.
Oh wow.
You understand? If you
Yes.
look at the Masoretic spelling of Koath, you wouldn't pronounce it as Koath if you read it. There's no indication that it should be pronounced as Koath. So for whatever reason, the scholars decided to call his name Koath. They would have to come and explain to us one day. But his name is really Keta. Keta is the name, and that's how it's really spelled. Now, so they have that. They have their name of their clan, which is one of the Ewe clans. They have their dialect of Ewe that they speak, is scribe, and then it is their dialect that was used to write the ancient Hebrew, the names that we see. It's written in their dialect, even the pictographs. It's in their dialect. You pronounce those things the way that the scribes would pronounce it. So it makes sense. Scribes, they're the ones that wrote it. So they would write it in their dialects for them. So most of it is in their dialects. And then what's really amazing is that they have continued even in the line of Moses. Yes, they right now, I mean, you can't go there today and say, I'm going to go, you guys are the Levites, I'm going to worship the way you do. If you do that, you're going to go into idolatry. So, but we're talking strictly in terms of identity.
Okay.
They have maintained the line of Moses. They have a priestly family among that clan that they call Amlada. That's the name of that priestly family, Amlada.
Okay.
And in fact, I saw last year's Exodus Durba that they have the biggest one of all. So last year's Exodus Durba, the linguist for the king came and introduced them, that priestly family, as the Levites. When he called upon them to come and say the prayers for the ceremony to begin. And of course, they were coming to pour libation, and do their traditional prayers.
Yeah.
And even though in those prayers, they always call on the Most High Yah, but they also call on their family deities as well.
Okay.
So that Amlada is significant because that's the name of Moses's father. His name is Amram. So that's what we are told to call him.
Okay.
But if you study linguistics, you know that sometimes R and L are interchangeable, depending on who is pronouncing the word, R and L.
Yeah.
And so instead of Amram, it is Amla. Amla.
Okay.
Right. And then that suffix da, I remember I said Amlada, da just means offshoot. So the offshoots of Amram is what we have.
Oh, wow.
And this is a family, a priestly family. They're known to be
All right, so like I said, I don't want to show too much of that. You can always go, but you can hear the same things that we showed 2 Shabbats away when they were talking about the elder was talking about how the Anlos were the scribes. So you can see how all this is connecting and coming together. So even they say they, came over here from where they're from, right? And migrated over here from Israel along to where they are now. So you can hear that there was a migration of people, as well as I was talking about Spain and Portugal, as people were getting kicked out and they came over, right? So they came over and there's a lot of different migrations over to West Africa. That's what I'm trying to say. So, and then those people mixed in together, right? So some of them say they've come from Judah, from Levites, and then you have the Black Portuguese coming in, and so that's why I say that after 400 years of us coming to America, and once again with different tribes coming back together, it's just showing you how Yah allow us to become even more closer as one people, because now even over there they're mixing through colonization and we're mixing, and it's like he's bringing us all back together again, right? So don't let people deceive you when they try to say, oh, you're not African. All African Americans not the same. I could be Israel. I should say we all Israel. I don't see how that could be any different after 400 years of being bred like animals, right? Like they want to have many of us, right? So they can have more slaves here in America. So everybody would. Then after we start working on having freedom and having them work farms, then great grandma, my grandma had 11 children, 12 children, right? So all that mixing and stuff, I feel like a lot of us, majority of us, will be having the same DNA. It might be a little different here and there based on tribes and stuff, but the majority of us will all have a similar DNA match. All right. So here's a couple of videos. Some of these are short, but I'm gonna play a couple of them so you can hear. Sometimes he's gonna be talking about slave trade and stuff too. So thought it'd be good for you to hear for what happened during the slave trade to our people, and how they're trying to come and teach us as we try to figure out everything and also return. All right.
"21 women or 15 men for one cannon. After that, they have to remove the chain which were on foot on the neck for them, because they are chains."
Oh, you can leave it. Okay. Can you hear me? You can leave my thing on. So you can see here, he's talking about the chains and how they basically took them far away to the different slave ports. That's what he's talking about, how they brought the slaves in. It's not in order, so please forgive us for that. All right, gonna play another one. There's just short clips.
Here we are on the darkness room. It were a big room which have 365 square meters. It not have windows, it were closed. When they bring these slaves at that time, they put them inside. They will stay inside for 2 weeks. 2 weeks for waiting to the ships. Because before the ship will come, they did 3 months. In the case for eating, they gave them just a small bread and water, 1 and 2 days.
Every 2 days.
Every 2 days. But if you are rebel, you don't have eating. So then you will be late. You can shout again. Yeah. But for sheets or for they do all that inside. In this shadow, they put them in those positions that you see. They put them near like that, fixed by 4 woods. Then the kids move. That means that when they will be like that in these 2 weeks we have.
That's the thing with the. Oh, you can see there that that's what he's talking about. How they basically enslaved them. I can't remember if the other statues of a woman, don't know sure if their body parts would be outside. Just decided to stop it here. So next one, let me see what the next one is. Oh yeah, this is a good one. This is the one I was trying to show. All right.
Africa, yeah. And we have some big people which left Africa. Our old parents, which were big, were left Africa. Here is a big village. Those parents which come from so far, and they are going. They cap them, they bring them. They are going. And here you see, sometimes they see a chain, they use chain to matrice them. But when they didn't see a chain, they search woods and they attach them like that, as you see. After that, when they came to the market of the slaves, they controlled.
Okay, so didn't know what they might show up there. So they basically talking about the different routes of the slaves and stuff as well. So this is what you'll experience if you go on the trip, from my understanding. They'll tell you something about the history and stuff as well. All right, so the next one, be talking about how the people were big, right? Stronger ones, right? So this is also interesting. It's talking about the tree and how they basically try to get them to forget who they are. So this is a tree that they talk about around that. So we'll play that one too.
C'est des saucisses sauvages.
Et ça, c'est l'arbre du
L'arbre de
retour.
retour.
Qu'est-ce qui se passait? What were they doing there?
When they bring those parents here at that time,
Yeah.
our parents, they oblige them. After the darkness room, those parents which are informed, they bring them here, they must turn around the tree. It was a spiritual tree.
How many times?
Since they planted since 1727.
1727.
It's during some 3 centuries. Then when they bring them here, they must turn around the tree 3 times. Then their soul is attacked
To the ground.
to the ground. That means that when they will die, go
They
over
come
there,
back.
they will die. Their soul will come back in the country. Because here in Africa, people can die, but his soul never die. It is a system to immortalize the soul of those parents.
And do you believe they came back?
Yeah, the soul
Some of
came
them.
back. Like it is the same things when we say.
All right, so you see when we were talking about, they're basically trying to get them ready for slavery, to forget who they are, to forget their history, to end up being now the more of a slave mind kind of person before they got sent out into slavery. All right, I think that's probably the last one I will show. This is talking about the king and stuff. What's the other one? Let's see the other one. That's the tree again. Oh yeah, this is a good one. We'll show this one, and that'll be it.
In English, please. In English.
Then it is the Portuguese, the country of the Portuguese. When they finish the village, they want to send them to the beach. If it were in night, they bring them here, they stay inside, and then tomorrow they will send them, they will continue.
So they're showing where the slave dungeons are. This is before they send them out. They put them in the slave dungeons before they ship them out in the Portuguese slave dungeons. So once again, you see the Portuguese presence there. It was a lot of other people too, British, I want to say maybe the Dutch or the Danes. So a lot of different people who actually had us enslaved and used that port, to ship us out throughout, different parts of Europe and Caribbeans and America, South America, North America, and so forth. All right. That'll be the last one we'll show here. So just to get you, showing you some of the stuff that's been shared. And like I said, this is one of my cousins you heard talking up there. She's the one that shared it with me, right? Because we built a relationship and she was able to share. So when you start finding your cousins, right, it's important for you to share and for your family history to also to help be preserved, right? And for people to share it and for us to learn from one another. So that's why it's important for you to do the lineage and work with your families. And, I'm going to go ahead and tell you, African-American wise, it's going to lead you back to Israel some way, rather if it's through Africa or Spain and Portugal or wherever else, it's going to lead you back to Israel. All right. So it's important for you to understand that also. All right. So Shabbat Shalom. Miss Vicky, good to see you. And Combo Solution, Selena. I think I'm seeing Selena there. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom, thank you for joining us as well. And anyone else I missed, please forgive me. I always don't look at the screen. So like when I go to my slides, like now, I'm not going to see the screen. So please forgive me if I miss calling you out. I appreciate you joining, and hopefully one day we can all be together in Israel as well. Hallelujah. All right, so today's lesson, we're going to be talking about the love of the Father, right, of a father. So it's so important for us to understand how much Yah loves us. A lot of time we're talking about how we need to line up and how we need to do this and how we do that, which is still part of it. But Yah's love for us is just so amazing. And people overlook that. We put too much emphasis on ourselves. And that's what I feel like our forefathers did, right? Where they thought that they can, reach the Garden of Eden in a different way. So some people know about Kabbalah and the Tree of Life and the other way to get into the garden, some say. So we know there's no other way other than Yahushua HaMashiach, right? The Messiah. He's the only way to get to the Father. So, but how much Yah loves us so much that even when we mess up, he still wants us to receive us. So in the same way, we just think about how we're looking for good fathers in our life, in our community. A lot of time is broken. And we struggle with that, right? We're trying to understand what that love should look like, even though sometimes it's not always there. So next slide. So the copyright here is just for us whenever we split up videos. So next. All right. So here we can see in Psalms 103, verses 6 through 18. I'm going to read this. And it says, Yahuwah performs righteous deeds and judgments for all who are oppressed. He made known his ways to Moses, his acts to the sons of Israel. So he shows us that we are his sons and daughters, right? He's in a position as Ab, or people say Abba, depending on what, dialect you use. So we know that he's the one that holds up the tent, like we were talking about last week, right? The ox means strong, the strong one. And then the bet, Ab, right? Aleph, bet. The bet means the house, the one strong one that holds up the house. He's the one that's supposed to hold up the house of Israel. So we can look at that. So even as us as fathers, we need to hold up our house, right? As men. And it's very important that we do that. And like I was saying last week, the mothers are the ones that actually supposed to be the strong glue, right? Aleph, Mem, strong glue, right? So strong mud. So things that hold things together. So we have our place that we need to be showing that in our families. But as Yah is our father, he's the one that is supposed to be our provider, our protector, our everything. And, when we get astray, it's just like a good father, he should chastise us because he just doesn't want us just to live any kind of way and do anything and then miss out on what he has in store for us. So it's important for us to truly understand. Just thinking about it, even like last night, my daughter, she went to a little art event. She has an art art management degree. That's what she's going to graduate with. And she went on a little art exhibit, little thing that they had, and she got caught in the mud, right? So I'm up here worried about her, sick, trying to like, oh, do I need to go up there? I was all concerned. And it just felt like, I was supposed to do something. And she knew to call on her father, right? Like she knew, even though she asked AAA, she called AAA and everything, but she still called me, even though there wasn't much I could do at where I am. But, if I had to jump in that car and drive all the way to where she's at hours away, I would do so. But that's the thing that was so important. Even when she talked to my wife, she said, let me talk to daddy, right? Like she had an expectation that daddy was supposed to help her in her time of need. So that's how Yah is to us. He's that father. He's that one that wants us to come to him. And that's through prayer, right? So we need to understand what is prayer all about, right? Is prayer just a wish list of things that we want? How would our father feel if we just came with a wish list of things, not to show our love towards our fathers or as fathers? What do we expect for people, our children, to come to us? It's just want to come a list of I want this, I want that. Or even as mothers, right? So not to knock it out, but we know that Yah is a man. I mean, in the image of a male. So I want to make sure I know people talking about all man and all woman, and Yah is could be a woman now. What's her name? Yolanda Adams and stuff, saying all kind of crazy stuff. But there's a reason why he's taking on that role as well, because also we know even with Yahushua and him talking about receiving a bride, right, without spot and wrinkle, right. The submissive one that is supposed to, and that's the great mystery of a family, right? That's how it's going to work together. That's how it should work together. The man should be the one that actually stands up and tries to move the family forward the best that he can, and knowing that he has a helpmate that's going to help him along the way. And you know, in a lot of houses that we've known, especially in our community, a lot of men weren't there, and the women had to step up, right? So now the question is, how do we get that back? You know, how do the men come back into the home and be the ones that supposed to, you know, move the family forward, and also, you know, for the woman to also help along with the nurturing and stuff of the families as well that's needed. So it's always a two-part. So important that we have the parents together in the house. And we know sometimes we mess up and things has happened through generation. My parents were divorced. But then it's like, how do we recorrect? How do we recorrect ourselves now, right? With our children, if we're not able to do it, or in our family, in our marriages, right? We know that, like me, I'm like, what does a strong father look like, or what does a strong husband look like to my wife, right? A compassionate husband, one that loves. So those are the characteristics that we can see that Yah has for us as his children, right? So in verse 8, it says, Yahuwah is compassionate and gracious, right? So slow to anger and abounding in loving kindness. So, you know, as, you know, things would comes to the father, it says, you know, what was the scripture? Don't frustrate your children or something like that. So it's like, we have to make sure that we still are gracious and always showing love, just like he shows us love. And then he says in verse 9, he will not always strive with us, nor will he keep his anger forever, right? So even though my children sometimes make me mad, I know hopefully they always know I always love them, right? Even in my anger, they know that I love them, right? So in the same way, Yah is the same way with us, right? He's mad when our forefathers went astray. He's mad when we went astray, right? A lot of times we want to talk about the ancient Israelites and not talk about what we're doing in our own personal life, that he sees everything, right? So our hearts have went astray. Thank Yah for Yahusha, right? So when it comes to verse 11, it says, for as high as the heavens, I'm sorry, going back to verse 10. He has not dealt with us according to our sins, nor rewarded us according to our iniquities. So, you know, we don't deserve his love, right? If he basically looked at our lives personally, or even us collectively, we will be, you know, just like the other nations that he was talking about wiping out, like wipe out the Canaanites and the Amorites and all that. We should be wiped out too, right? Just like those people who picked up a stick on the Sabbath. Just think about picking up a stick on the Sabbath and you're getting stoned and killed, right? So in the same way, right, we should have been probably multiple times, especially in here in America and the lives that we grow up in here, we definitely should have been stoned a long time ago, not doing the Shabbat, right? All the stuff. So once again, I don't know how people overlook who Yahusha is and his role in being his only begotten son, only one that came from him, right? So we got to make sure that we put things in proper understanding about his love for us and what this all means, right? So if you miss that, you don't truly understand who you are as an Israelite, right? Israelite, number one, starts with Israel. Israel goes to Jacob, right? Jacob came from Isaac, right? So we know that there is a trail that goes back to Abraham, right? So Abraham is the one that had the covenant with Yah that we still got to this day. So we got to understand those pieces and why did he pick us, right? So he even talks about that, right? When we get to verse 11, it says, for as high as the heavens are above the earth, so great is his loving kindness to those who fear him. That means reverence. So do we even reverence him? How do you reverence a father that you can't even see, right? That you know that his presence is here because he's the creator of heaven and earth. You look up there and you see the sun, you know how great his power is. You should see life. You know, we're not connected to no wall outlet, but yet we still live like, you know, like a robot on batteries, right? Like how the complexity of how the human body works, even in itself, is amazing, right? One atom of a body. And you think about how everything is created, has molecules and atoms and from light and stuff. And he put all that together. How great is that? You know, how awesome is that? So even when we are going through, how do we reverence him? How do we look at him? Do we look at him as just that fairy tale from the Bible? or the creator of heaven and earth, the creator of man, the creator of who you are as an Israelite, right? So in verse 12, it says, as far as the east is from the west, so far has he removed our transgressions from us. Just as a father has compassion on his children, so Yahuwah has compassion on those who fear him. See, repeat the same thing about the reverencing him. Anytime he repeats something in the Bible, it's important. He's trying to get our attention, right? So it's very important to understand how we must reverence him. So in verse 14, it says, for he himself knows our frame. He is mindful that we are but dust. He created us. He knows that we are weak in nature, right? He knows our limitations. He knows everything. So in verse 15, as for man, his days are like grass, as a flower of the field, so he flourishes. When the wind has passed over it, it is no more, and it places acknowledges it no longer. But the loving kindness of Yahuwah is from everlasting to everlasting on those who what? Fear him, right? And his righteousness to children's children. What's that mean? To generations after us as well. So how do we restore it, right? It's about getting our line back realigned with him. And once we're realigned, it's going to bless the generations after us. Just like when we do wrong, it will curse the generations after us as well, right? So everybody knows that how they say, the chip off the old block type of thing, right? You know, like we know, hey, you just like your mom. You know, whenever a young lady might be a little fast or something, oh, she like her mama, right? If a guy is always getting in trouble, oh, he's just like his daddy, right? But you hardly hear that in our community when it's something good. Like, oh, he's like his father. He's a great man, right? Oh, she's like his mom. She's like her mom. She's a great, you don't hear that. You always hear the negative side of things, right? When they usually talk about that. But it's good to see how those things, as Yah says, and allow the psalmist to write this, is that the promises is for us reverencing him. And it will pass to the next generation as well once we line up with him. And verse 18, to those who keep his covenant and remember his precepts to do them. So in order to keep the covenant that he has given us to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, right? It was a covenant. There was precepts, there was commands and laws that connected back to that covenant. It wasn't just something that, was just made up and just say, hey, this is a promise. You always be my people. You can live like you want to live, do what you want to do, and you always be my people. No, just like children that's in a home, if they want to be blessed and receive the blessings of the parents, they got to be obedient. They got to honor their parents, right? They can't go around just trashing the house and saying I'm gonna spitting on grandma and just doing whatever they want to do, right? That's not going to be a good thing for them to be blessed with. And we got to make sure that our children as well are, able to work in society, right? So even children who are spoiled, right, they'll get their way and they can do whatever they want to do. Once they go into society, the world's not going to treat them like mom and daddy treat them, right? So we actually putting them in danger of an incidents, because sometimes our children think they're invincible and not knowing that the next child thinks he's invincible too. And if you both grow up together, they're going to have a clash. Something's not going to happen right. All right. So we can see some of his attributes there of how he's compassionate, slow to anger. He loves us. He wants good things for us. Even when we go astray, he still wants us to do what's right. All right. So next. So that's very similar to the story of the prodigal son, right? I'm not going to read all the way through it. Most time people know about the story of the prodigal son when he went astray and he came back. And, when he came to his senses, right? When he was out there, he was like, I don't have to live like that. I got a good father, right? So even in your life, as we are going through situations, and just to always remember you got a good father, right? He's not going to give us bad things when we come to him. He's going to give us the things that we need to preserve us, just like a good father should give, right? So he wants us to be, and he wants to be an example for us to be for our children and generations thereafter. Children in our community, even if you're not a physical father and gave birth to a child, you're still a father of, a leader of the community. That's the reason why a lot of times in the Bible it said, go to the elders, right? Like the elders of the community. They were the ones that basically was given direction for the rest of the tribes, right? So it wasn't just the priests, it said the priests and the elders, right? I always like the elders were so important. And you can see that even in our African culture, right? There's the elders that's there that a lot of people respect and listen to, right? See, even Elder Hamadichi, Cohen Hamadichi, he even said whenever there's a problem between a couple, they try to get the elders involved in order for them to reconcile and get things back together, right? So where is that in our community, right? Where's our elders? A lot of times the elders now are trying to get tattoos and be like kids now, right? Like we need our elders to be elders, right? To grow up, and then even us and the generations that follow, we need to make sure we're aligned with them because one day we're going to be elders. And if we're not in that right place, then, you know, we see a breakdown in society. So the love of our fathers and things, you know, even when they go astray, to make sure that we able to pull them back in, to reconcile, to govern our community in a way that Yah governs us. You know, he gives us the example that we must do. And even when they felt like they're not worthy for all the stuff they did, I know I felt like I wasn't worthy for the Father, Yah, to receive me because of stuff that I did in my past. But he still receives us, you know. So it's so important that we wake up. You know, it's like you're not too far gone to come back to the Father, right? So no matter what you have done, you know, even Yah allowed one of the worst people of the Bible, King Manasseh, to change his life, to repent, to come to him, even though it hurt the following generations, all the evil that he did. But yet he made it in because he was the one who actually changed his heart. And that's where we know the new covenant actually is. You know, the sons won't eat the sour grapes of the father, right? That we talked about that before, right? So it said the one who sins, he must die, right? But if you repent, you will save yourself. And he, you know, we went through all that, how people said that wasn't fair. But he said, Yah said, you're not fair, right? Because you're overlooking the things that he wants. He said, the things when somebody sins, they must die, no matter how good you are. If you turn astray right before you know, close your eyes, you decide to leave Yah, that's the judgment that you get, right? So we must make sure that we pursue all the way into the end because he loves us, just like a good father. If you had a good child and he was good all his life, and then, you know, in his oldest years, he should start acting up and start ignoring you and, you know, disrespecting you, cursing at you, saying he ain't going to help you, you know, is that a good way to say, oh, yeah, the first few years that he lived was good, or are you going to act upon, you know, what's present, what's right there before you, right? So, and the reverse is true as well. If they lived a terrible life, did all kind of bad stuff, and then they repent as an adult, oh man, that's a blessing that you can see in your old age, that, you know, when I close my eyes, I know that they're going to be doing good before I leave this earth, right? So the Father, we know, is eternal. So he knows that however we come before him is the kind of mindset and heart set that we will have eternally with him, rather if it's in eternal in heaven or eternal in the lake of fire, right? So we know both are eternal. The second death or the resurrection of us, right? So we want to be part of that second resurrection of being with him and not the second death. So you can see there though, and when he came, he ran to him. It was very important. You know, he even though he was messed up, he still came to embrace him and kiss him. And we saw that in the previous scripture in Psalms. But we can see in 21, it says, and the son said to him, Father, I have sinned against heaven and in your sight. So son acknowledged that he messed up with Yah, the Father, and his father on earth. I am no longer worthy to be called your son. But the father said to his slaves, quickly bring out the best robe and put it on him, and put a ring on his hand and sandals on his feet, and bring the fattened calf and kill it, and let us eat and celebrate. For the son of mine was dead and has come to life again. He was lost and he has been found. And they began to celebrate. So, you know, you can say that's a memorial in itself, celebration, right? Of basically his son basically being able to reconcile with his father and also his father in heaven. So it's important for us to acknowledge that, right? To know when somebody really gives their life has been changed, and that they will be given the same things that everyone else in the kingdom will be given as well, right? There's no big I's, no little U's type of thing in the kingdom. We're all used in the way that Yah wants to use us in the ministering of our gifts. And it's him. It's the Ruach HaKodesh. No matter if it's me speaking, if somebody's programming or helping somebody, you know, Mr. Akudi Deneen is helping organize the luncheon that we have. My wife is over there with like 8 arms doing all kind of stuff for us. So are we doing that for the glory of Yah? And it's Yah basically putting it all together, just like he's going to put together us throughout the 4 corners. All right, next slide. So this is the part that I read earlier at the very beginning, so I won't go through all of it. But Yah has basically chosen us, right? So he basically said that this is the people that he wants to be his people. And he called us at the very beginning, that first verse right there in verse 6. This is Deuteronomy 7, verse 6. He says, you are a holy people to Yahuwah, right? So that's that holy nation that he's called a set apart nation. How are we set apart if we're living like the rest of the world? If we're doing everything the world is doing and we're just saying, hey, I just ask Yah for forgiveness and it's okay, I'm still doing the things that the world is doing. How are we a set apart people, where the word holy means set apart, Kodesh, right? A set apart people. What makes us set apart? So Yah has made sure, you know, that he wanted to have a relationship with us, that he chose us because, you know, who he is. And he basically kind of rebukes any kind of pride within us outside of him, because in verse 7, what he says? Yahuwah did not set his love on you, nor choose you, because you were more in number than any of the peoples, for you were the fewest of all peoples. But because Yahuwah loved you and kept the oath, so the oath, that covenant, which he swore to your forefathers, and Yahuwah brought you out with a mighty hand. So you can hear that also if you go to Ezekiel 20, right? It said with a mighty hand and an outstretched arm and wrath poured out, that he's going to pull us up again. And he repeats it with a mighty hand, outstretched arm, that he's going to pull us before him, that, you know, he's going to make sure that his promise, his oath, his covenant with those who truly reverence or fear or love him, right, is going to be a part of. And that's the issue. You know, where's our heart at with that? That's the reason why I preached last week about, you know, making sure that we're in connection with him and giving him our all, right? Like the Rechabites did. So we got to make sure that we're doing the things that's right before him, and he has blessings for us, right? And he said that he has promises for us. He will love you and bless you and multiply you. You know, you can see some of the stuff that I already read before, right? Your fruits of your womb and the fruit of your ground. And, you know, he's going to bless us to be above all peoples, right? There will be no male or female barren among you, right? What does a male, how does a male not be barren? What does that mean, right? Like, we're going to continue to produce good things, you know, both males and females, or even within generation and generation to come. So we will be fruitful. And then he said 15, then Yahuwah remove from you all sickness. So we know we're not where we're supposed to be. People still getting sick. I was sick last week, right? So we're dealing with stuff. So it's like, what are we not doing to line back up with him? For his word is true. The question is, what's wrong with us, right? So he loves us, and that's what he's slowly doing. He's slowly getting our attention, trying to know who we are so we can come back to be a part of what he had originally in store for us. That was the covenant that he had, right? So even those that oppose us, that had some issues, he has issues with them, right? So next. So we can see that he even said, you shall not be afraid of them. You shall remember what Yahuwah, your El, did to Pharaoh and to all Egypt. So why is that important, right? So that's why we do Passover. Passover is to remember that he brought us out of Egypt. And he wants to keep that in our memory year after year after year, because he said he's going to do it again. That goes back to Ezekiel 20 and some of these other scriptures that we're learning in Bible study, you know, about the last days and stuff that we've been reading over. So this is important to understand that this is that cycle that he has us through. So the question is, where are you, right? In the cycle, where are you personally? And then once we get ourselves personally together, the collective will come together. And now we're that Mamleket Kohanim, right? We're that Israel, right? Throughout all the nations, throughout all the different tribes and all the different countries, all the places that he basically scattered us. Because you can see there, even in 19, he says, you know, the wonders and the mighty hand and the outstretched arm, but you know, once again, mighty hand, outstretched arm. Like I said, go look up, go just read through all of Ezekiel 20, you'll be amazed that he basically tells the story of how we were so disobedient, but his love still was with us. And he said, for our name, for his name's sake, that he spared us because he made the promise, not that we deserved it. And then in the end, it talks about the future, about how he's going to bring us out again, just like he did before. So it's very important for us to understand this love that he has for us, from generation to generation. And even though we messed up, he has to chastise us, right? Like I said. So that was some of the stuff that we were just went through, right? Or even in our own life. Sometimes we go through chastisement in our own life. And we don't like chastisement when things don't work out our way and we feel like things are coming against us. Sometimes it's not because we sin all the time, but sometimes it is because, you know, you're going to pay for the things that you did as well, right? So we got to make sure that we're not always, you know, used to tell my son and some other people, some other children that, you know, kind of mentor. I said, don't, what I used to say, don't let your do right so your wrong can't hurt you, right? If you do right, then your wrong won't hurt you because you're not doing wrong. But when you do wrong, you can expect something not to turn out right. So if you do right, you don't have to worry about your wrong hurting you. So it's very important that we think about that in our relationship with Yah, our Father, that if we do the things that he's called us to do, then when those other things do happen to us, because sometimes things still happen, we know we're already aligned with him. You know, we're already aligned with his will and things are going to work out. But when we walk outside of that will, then we're exposing ourselves, right, to things that could happen. So we want to make sure that we always are in that reverence and that fear of him, right? So that going back to the end where it says you shall not bring an abomination to your house, you know, what is an abomination? What are those things like, you know, Saram, Akuta Sharon was talking about, right? She was like, don't go do what they say do because you're going to be caught up in idolatry, right? But yet they still had a method, a remembrance of some of those things that they used to do, right? So those are the things we want to go back and gravitate to. You know, going back to Israel might have to go through the path of going, well, Israel is in Africa, but, you know, us reuniting, it's like, how is he going to bring all us back together, right, again? So we don't want to just focus on West Africa. We want to focus on what he wants to do in Israel and not the current state of Israel, as we know is, you know, got a lot of stuff going on with the gay parades and all that stuff. So, but what is he going to do to restore us, right, back together again? All right. So next, so this is very important. So Deuteronomy 10, he says in verse 12, now Israel, he's trying to always get our attention, right? Like he's always like, I'm trying to talk to you. I'm trying to get you to do right. So now Israel, what does Yahuwah your El require from you? But to what? Fear, that reverence, Yahuwah your El, to walk in all his ways and love him, and to serve Yahuwah your El with what? All your heart, not half, not just the half we want to do on Shabbats, but all our heart and with all your soul, all your inner being, he wants, right? To be dedicated to him. That's what we want to do. We want to be fully dedicated, fully doing the things that he's called us to do. And it says, and to keep Yahuwah's commandments and his statutes, which I'm commanding you to do, commanding you today for your good. So he gave us this not because it's supposed to be a burden. Oh, I got to do this feast day. I got to go to Shabbat again. You know, it's supposed to be for our good. Shabbat is supposed to be a time of rest, a time of praise and thanksgiving, a time of building, taking time out to come together as a family, personal family, and also throughout the four corners as much as we can to come and worship him. That's a good thing, right? To give us good morals, to get us not to be selfish and just think about ourselves, right? So these are the things that Yah wants us to do, and it's going to be for our benefit because, you know, it's going to bless us. You know, it's going to take a lot of work to try to be mean, to try to be manipulative, to be deceitful. You got to remember this. I got to remember that. You know, I can't worry about how they're going to act back to me, even though I'm going to act towards them. All those things in our heads, you got, it's less stress just to be nice When somebody doesn't receive it, or hey, that's between them and Yah, right? Like, hey, I'm not gonna allow that stress to mess up my life, my blood pressure to get all out of whack, and all that type of stuff, right? We're the ones, if your father wasn't around or he didn't do right by you, forgive him and go move on, right? Because if they're not a good father, they're not like they're going to care, rather if you care or not. And you're going to carry that burden on you or your mother or whoever it could be, right? So we want to make sure that we, allow Yah to work through us, because then even if we're able to show love back to them that we didn't receive, right? What kind of conviction that would be, where they might turn their hearts and also come back to Yah, right? We're supposed to be that Mamleket Kohanim, the kingdom of priests, people that's going to serve him in the kingdom. That's also in Revelation, saying that he makes us priests for him and the Lamb. So what does a priest do? It serves, it ministers unto the people. So we're supposed to minister unto him. And how do we do that? So that's what he's talking about here when he talks about 14. Behold, to Yahuwah your El belong heaven and the highest heavens, the earth and all that is in it. Yet on your fathers did Yahuwah set his affection to love them, and he chose their descendants after them, even you above all peoples, as it is to this day. So circumcise your heart. So we know that men get circumcised supposed to be at 8 years old. 8 days old, sorry. 8 days old, they get circumcised, right? So you can't remember anything about that, right? So, and wasn't a choice of yours. It was a choice of your parents' obedience to get you circumcised in the way that Yah has asked us to do, unless you grow up uncircumcised and you decide to do it yourself. Somebody else do it for you. And I don't say yourself, don't do yourself, but through the right measures. But in the same way, now that we're older, women can't be circumcised, right? They're not supposed to get circumcised. I know they do it in some place in Africa and they shouldn't do that. But now that we're older, this is the time when we're able to acknowledge who we are and he wants our hearts to be circumcised. So is your heart circumcised, no matter if you're male or female, right? Young or old, to a point where you understand what's right and wrong. Is your heart circumcised to do the things that Yah has called us to do? Or we're going to be stiff-necked like our fathers, right? Hard-headed and stiff-necked. We say that about our people all the time, right? They won't listen, won't do what's right. Stiff-necked, just like, that's how we know we Israel. But in verse 16, so circumcise your heart and stiffen your neck no longer. For Yahuwah your Yah is the Yah, El of Elohims, and the master of masters, the great and the mighty, the awesome Yah, who does not show partiality nor take a bribe. So you can't fool Yah, right? You can't play games with Yah. He knows what's true. You can't barter with Yah. How do you barter with him, right? So if you do this, I'll do that. He knows your heart. He knows, the fact most people say that they're not going to do that, right? You can't make a deal with Yah, especially not supposed to, and then not keep it. So he knows where we are. So the thing about it is just go ahead and turn and change your life right then. Go ahead and try to be affectionate, or, allow the past hurts and pains to be let go, so we can focus on moving forward and showing the love and compassion to others. And that's a healing for us. The more if you've been through a situation and you're able to show love to others, that's a healing part, right? That you're able to even show that testimony of how you were hurt and it didn't affect you moving forward, because Yah gave you that strength, right? The Ruach HaKodesh basically ministers to you so you can minister to others, or he can minister through you to others, right? And that just shows you how it will even bless others, because we're not in control of what other people do to us. We're just in control to how Yah uses us, right? And to glorify his name. So things that happen, hurts that happened in the past, right? We take some healing by allowing him to take those burdens away, right? And that's what's going to have to take. We're going to have to let those burdens go, even if, the people in the past are no longer here, or situations that happen and people are not forgetful of those things. We got to let those things be healed through Yah and allow our life to be restored in him, in order to break this cycle of our people, going through this chastisement and these cycles where we reject him and get pulled away. So in verse 19, so show your love. I'm sorry, I went too far down. For 18, he executes justice for the orphan and the widow, and shows his love for the alien, by giving him food and clothing. So show your love for the alien. So that shows you people outside of our nation, right? Yah has us to make sure that we are a light into the world, right? Just like Yahushua was. We supposed to follow in his footsteps and do the same, right? For you were aliens in the land of Egypt. You shall not fear Yahuwah your El. You shall serve him and cling. I'm sorry, you shall fear Yahuwah your El. You shall serve him and cling to him, and you shall swear by his name. So, I wouldn't say much about swearing much about to other people because you got to keep it. But he is your praise. He's your praise. So if you're going through, praise him. He's your praise. He's the reason why we want to live for tomorrow. Even if we go through a bad day, tomorrow is not gone. Or at the end of the day, he still remains king of the earth, creator of heaven and earth, right? So we know that our situation is not hopeless if we give him praise. And it says he is your El, who has done these great and awesome things for you, which your eyes have seen. So they actually, during the time, saw the Red Sea part, right? They saw the frogs and the stick turned to a snake and the red rivers and stuff, right? They saw all those things. So it's just amazing how they didn't change their life. So that's why, Yahushua is even saying, like, if you didn't look, if people are asking for miracles and stuff, he's like, well, no, it's not gonna matter. All the healings that he did in all those cities and all the things that he did, it says only a few people repented out of all the miracles that he did because they didn't have a circumcised heart. So Yah wants us to make sure that we are ready to receive the blessings that he has and the love that he has for us as well. But it says, he is your praise, he is your El, who has done these great and awesome things for you, which your eyes have seen. Your fathers went to Egypt, 70 persons in all. So 70 people went to Egypt as Israelites, as descendants of Jacob, or within that camp, because we know they only had 12 of them, right? And then they had some sons, and they mixed with the Canaanite women and all kind of stuff. Dinah got raped by Shechem, and all that stuff happened, right? In all, and now Yahuwah, your El, has made you as numerous as the stars of heaven. So how do you go down to Egypt, a black nation, and become millions of people without integrating with African people, black people, right, as we call them? So, that's why I'm saying that a lot of times you hear a lot of Africans say they came from Egypt. Well, in a sense, we all came from Egypt, but not from the paternal standpoint, but from maybe the maternal, because of, we know that Joseph even married Asenath and had two of the biggest nations of Israel, Manasseh and Ephraim, right? So they had an Egyptian mom. So that's why I tell people, don't get so caught up in DNA and stuff like that. Get caught up on your heart, circumcising your heart. That's what matters the most. And then he'll call us to where we need to be and put us where we need to be after that. As we saw that even in last week's lesson, even the Rechabites, right? The Rechabites they came from Hobab, right? The brother of Moses, and they were still blessed in a great way. So next. So just to talk about a little bit with Mordecai, right? In the story of Esther, we can see very similar things that actually happen with them and with us. So I'm gonna go a little bit more in detail about just the standard stuff of Purim and stuff next week, y'all willing. But the story itself, a lot of times we don't get a chance to really go over. And I'm not going to go over the whole thing, but in the mind of Mordecai, how Yah has showed favor to the people of Israel. And a lot of people miss it because a lot of times, which is still good, that we focus on Hadassah, like calling her by her Israelite name, Hebrew name, instead of Esther, which is the pagan name that she was given. But we can see they're in exile. Aren't we in exile now? Aren't we not where Yah? We're not in the land. We were kicked out of the land, just like they were kicked out from Babylon, and then Persia took over, right? So just like them, we're in the same state. We're outside looking in. His name is Mordecai. Mordecai is a pagan name. I think it connects to Marduk, either the Babylonian or Persian god Marduk. That's what his name means. Now we got names we call slave names. That's not a Hebrew name. Well, unless your mom, your dad, give you a biblical name like Michael or Jeremiah and all that stuff, Joel or Joel. Those are the names that come from the Bible. But thankfully, y'all gave me, my mom gave me the name Jashir. I was able to get from my first name, that's a Welsh name, to the middle name. And then thankfully, that Yah people have woken up and was able to give themselves nickname or Hebrew name, and that's also part of prophecy as well. So, but it talks about Mordecai, the son of Jair, the son of Shimi, the son of Kish, a Benjamite. So we definitely know he was from the line of Benjamite. So you can see how even as they in the diaspora, right, that they still held to their lineage. They still knew their lineage. So that's the reason why I say we need to do your genealogy. You need to do, maybe not, if you're scared of DNA, there's still genealogy. Genealogy is just studying your family lineage, right? You should know something about it. Go talk to your great grandparents or whoever's living that's the oldest aunt, whoever cousin that might have the information, that did some studies, that got the family books. You need to understand that. But it says, who had been taken into exile from Jerusalem. That's where we are, right? It's been many years for us, where it was a lot closer for them, but we're in the same situation. And what did Mordecai do, right? So Hadassah didn't have a father. What did he do? He took her in as his own. She had no father or mother, so Mordecai took her as his own daughter. So even in our community, he was like, based on this version, he's a cousin, right? And he still took her in as his own. So, like I said, if you don't have children, you do have children. You're the children of the community, right? You should be able to have that same fatherly love that we talked about before for other children in the community that's not your direct bloodline, but still your blood, right? So that's how we're going to restore this community. This is, showing how Mordecai even showed favor with his cousin to watch over her, right? To make sure. So we're accountable for our family, no matter if they're far, distant, close or not. Some people are like, oh, that's your third cousin. Don't worry about them. Like, no, that's still your third cousin, your fourth cousin, your fifth cousin, your sixth cousin, because we're all Israel, right? So all Israel matter. So we need to make sure that we take time and accountability to help whoever Yah's called us to do. All right, so next. So we know that, there was hate that was actually placed upon a certain group of people, our people, right? For Haman just had pride. He had a special position, but his pride had him still wanting to be displeased with Mordecai, the Israelite, the Benjamite, right? He knew he was an Israelite, a Jew, as is stated, at least in the scripture, that he knew that, and there was always a thing where they both were at battle. We talked about how he descended from Amalek and the Amalekites, right? And it said that they will always be our enemies to the end of the world. So we talked about all the Herods and all that stuff to kind of get us to where we are today. But we can see there, even in verse 8, this is Esther 3, verse 8, it says, then Haman said to the king Xerxes, there is a certain people scattered and dispersed among the people in all province of your kingdom. Their laws are different. See, there's that set apartness, right? That holiness. Their laws are different, right, from those of all other people, and they do not observe the king's laws. So it is not in the king's interest to let them remain. So we need to get rid of these people. How many times you hear that, at least in America, about, it's always African Americans. Like, we can't get out people's mouths. We can have nothing to do with the situation. They still want to talk about like DEI, right? Like, what do we have to do with any of this? They still want to put a target on our back, right? So it's like, why is this hate, perpetual hate, always placed on us? We know that even in Deuteronomy 28 talks about we'll be wiped off the earth until we come back to the covenant, right? As a people. So Yah has going to eventually, I know, has to only collect a remnant, because it says in Ezekiel 20 that people will have to pass under that rod, and the rebellion is going to be left in the desert, as the righteous ones that fear him will enter into the land of Israel. So we know there's going to be a division in the last days that's going to happen. And we talked a lot about that in the previous weeks, right? Talking about the kingdom and the treasure, and, with the fish that's going to be separated, just like in the end, there's going to be a separation, right? So we got to make sure we are on that right side of the separation, because this man was willing to use his own money. At least that's what I'm reading. And I will pay 10,000 talents of silver into the hands of those who carry on the king's business, and to put into the king's treasury. So he's that hateful of these people, right? That wouldn't just bow down to him, to actually use his own money, a lot of his own money, because we know that money then was at least from the inflation standpoint, was a lot more valuable when you had a little bit than it is now. So 10,000 was a lot now. You can't even imagine how much that was back then. So even in the BCs, right? So it says he was given the ring. He was already called the enemy of the Jews. So that's what we talk about, the Haggites, right? So at the end, we can see that, you know, the king actually, he didn't know who the people was. It looked like he just didn't care. Sure, like, go ahead and do what you got to do. I don't care about those people, right? And that's where some people are, even with us, right? Some people are not for us, they're not against us, but they like, I don't have no business. We saw that with even with George Floyd, right? Some people like, that's not my problem, right? Do what you want to do with those people, right? So we got to make sure that we know that our strength comes from Yah. It's not trying to, you know, all the politics. Is good that we try to be advocate for our communities and stuff like that, but we don't want to put our trust in that. We got to put our trust in Yah. So, you know, it talks about how a letter was written to destroy and annihilate the Israelites, both young and old, right? They won't have no mercy. Women and children, all in one day, to wipe us off the face of the earth, right? And we know, well, some of you might not know, but here in North Carolina, there was a time when the Wilmington Police Department said they were waiting for this great war when they were going to go around and just shoot black people and minorities. Like it was, they got caught on the police force doing that. Just look up the article; it's crazy. That and some people talking about, if you look online, they're like, I'm just waiting for that day. I can't wait for until when we can just go around and annihilate. You know, it's like, why do you have that much hate for us? Like, what did we do in order for you to have that much hate? But people got these plans for us, right? It's like, when are we going to seek him before, you know, somebody that's favorable, that could be in a high place, I put it that way, could say, yes, go ahead and do it, right? So I feel like persecution is one way to get us to do what's right and turn to him. And I feel like, based on the Song of Moses, that might have to happen. I don't want it to happen for the, you know, myself and for everybody else. But sometimes, you know, like during 9/11, when something happens, everybody was ready to pray instead of praying before it happens, right? So that's what I'm advocating for, is that we do these, go ahead and turn now before these things happen. So that way we'll be prepared to do what's next, instead of just running around and pleading and asking Yah for forgiveness, right? But not only was it a plan to kill them, but they were going to take from them, seize their possessions as plunder. So we can see now, you know, just Black History Month, right? How many of those towns got put underwater and stuff, how they took their stuff, ran them out of town, and just annihilated during the Red Summers of 1919. If you don't know about that, look that up. How they just went, like here in North Carolina, Wilmington Massacre. You know, the Black people were actually on and it was a mixed community, but it was majority Black in Wilmington, North Carolina, and how, you know, we were prosperous during that time. And, you know, they just got a community of racist people. They put false propaganda about us, and they went around and just start killing people, the Wilmington Massacre. And then when we actually sent out for help to the government, they said no. Only time all in America that a coup happened and it wasn't turned over. And even to this day, unless something happened during George Floyd, I haven't been in Wilmington in a while, but even at least from last my memory, they even had the park still named after the people who actually did the coup, right? That actually went against our people unlawfully, and they still have names of parks and stuff named after them down there. It's just crazy. So we can see how things like that happen to us. But those are the things that we want to make sure we don't continue to allow happen in that cycle, because our real big problem is not with these people, it's real with Yah, right? So if we get right with Yah, then everything else will work out. But until we get that right, you can talk about black, white, this people all day and be mad, and nothing's going to happen because we haven't got this right first, our relationship back with him, but with our Father. All right, so next. But they did, right? So we know that they fasted and prayed, and then Yah gave them favor. And even though that they were people that was under dogs, right? And they were the least of the community, and Queen Hadassah basically built up the courage to go before the king after they fasted for 3 days with no food or water. I thought that was amazing. That they actually, I'm not asking us to do that though. But you know, that we should ask for 1 day and people got problems. But they were that desperate to actually hear from him, right? So Yah had actually, you know, during the time, you know, they probably were living all kind of lives, naming their children Mordecai and doing all kind of stuff that wasn't right. And now, you know, once again, when there's a need, when something happens, they want to run to their father. And thankfully, he embraces us with those open arms, just like he did with the prodigal son, right? So we thank y'all for doing that. But, you know, he also gave them favor when they turned to him, turned to the father. So we can see that the king, and they said that King Xerxes, he was terrible. He was a tough king, they said. So the fact that he even was able to soften his heart in order to hear from his wife that he, you know, because his first wife he just got rid of, right? At the beginning of the story, he wasn't playing around with the second one, but he still had a softened heart, right? So he gave her whatever she asked for, and the enemies of the Israelites were, you know, done away with. Haman, his sons, as well as were able to return and win the battle. So it said there, and that's the reason why they start doing the Israelites or Jews who are in Susa. So just look up Susa. That's what, you know. Oh yeah, that's the Black Persian video I just put out. The last one I put out. You know, so Susa is the place in Iran, the temple. I mean, the castle that still has black people. Well, had black people face on the side of it that they took, you know, to the British Museum. But they drew themselves as black people, like dark as that man, probably even darker than him. But the Jews who were in Susa assembled also on the 14th day of the month, Adar, and killed 300 men in Susa, but they did not lay their hands on the plunder. So same thing with the Israelites, right? They basically was fighting and said, don't take over the plunder, right? They don't want to get greedy. But they focused on their relationship and not on just the negative side of people that opposed them to try to get their wealth like they were trying to do them. Right? Yah blesses us with wealth. We don't have to be deceitful, worry about what other people get. We just got to worry about being in reference to what Yah has, and he will basically increase us, right? So next. So we can see that this is the part I think a lot of people miss, is that even in the end, Mordecai was placed as second only to the king. So he was elevated, just like Joseph. Everybody talks about Joseph, but nobody talks about Mordecai. Mordecai was put as second person in the kingdom of Persia, the great kingdom of Persia, right? And it says, and he was great among the Jews and in favor with many his kinsmen, one who sought the good of his people and one who spoke for the welfare of his whole nation, thought about everybody because he loved Yah, right? Even he's talked about the welfare of everybody, just like even with Daniel was elevated. The Hebrew boys were elevated, right? But their whole mind was still seeking Yah. They didn't lose focus as they were elevated. It's where our people, once you get a little green, right, they get a little mean, right? They start losing focus. They want to, you know, be rubbing shoulders with other people and treating their own people wrong in order to get favors for and good with other people, right? So we can see what happened to in the news. It was just amazing. You see what Tim Scott and Ben Carson and all them didn't even get put on any of the cabinet of President Trump, and all that, you know, tap dancing and stuff that they did. It didn't really lead to what they so desire. But whenever there's something that happens to people in a negative sense, they come running back to our community, like Candace Owens and all that stuff, right? And we would still receive them. But isn't that something special about our people, how we still love people even after they do wrong by our community? We still, okay, Tiger Woods, you know, you didn't say you were black all them years and all that happened. We still stood in your corner, right? It's like, that's how we are with our people. And it just shows you how that's, once again, how Yah has created us to do special things and be a special people, to have a heart like him. Even when we don't even want to have it, right? Still have a good heart. Even some of the worst people in our community still have a heart for other people in time. So it's just amazing, you know. Sometimes I grew up with people to be the hardest person. I ain't playing around, pull out the gun, you know, drug dealer. And we used to go out to the park, play basketball, and I used to try to minister to them before they leave. And they, you know, they were like, that's the tough guy. He'd be up there, could you come pray for my arm? Could you? I was like, oh, okay. That's a tough drug dealer. Want to get prayer. We know where our help comes from, right? So we got to do the same and be able to be willing to, you know, love our community and our nation as a whole throughout all the four corners. All right. So next. So in the same time, though, you know, when we look at the genealogy of those that left Babylon as well as Persia, we can see that Mordecai's name was in the number. So even though he was highly elevated, he didn't lose focus on what Yah's plan was still to come, right? He knew he still wanted to go back, had the heart to still go back to the place that Yah has given us, right? So our focus is still on Israel, no matter what happens or how he elevates us here. We still should have a desire to be a part of his plan. His plan is to redeem us and take us back to the land that he has prepared for us. No matter if it happens in our life or not, that should be our desire, right? Daniel, same thing. He was elevated. He still was worried about going back. He was reading what the other prophet said. He never made it back, but he was reading what the other prophet said. When is the time to go back? He was, always seeking. Trying to do, even Joseph, right? Joseph said, take my bones back to the place. He said, I know I might die in this place where I'm elevated, but I want my bones to go back to the land, to our true birth land, right? That he wants of the children of Israel. So with the promised land that was promised to us. So do we have that kind of desire to look at what his plan is for us and follow his plan, or are we just looking for self-gain and self-worth? And Yah might have bring you up to a position to bless somebody in your position, right? No matter if it's monetarily or if it's like in your position of power, right? To try to get other people to help other people in the position that you are, to get information that they didn't have before. And that's usually what happens in our community. We're not giving the other information. Our children are not exposed to enough stuff. They just want to be basketball players and doctors. And when that don't work out, they don't know what to do, right? So, or singers or something, right? Like there's other things that, somebody sits you down and say, hey, you might not be a doctor, but you might be a physical, what do you call those people? Physician assistant, right? Make good money still, right? Those type of things, those type of roles. Like I, never knew about any business intelligence. That's why I kind of work in that area, data analytics. But I never thought about anything like that. I didn't know anything much about that growing up, right? It just happened to be how y'all guided me through college to get me where I'm at. So, we got to make sure that we share and still have the promises of what Yah wants us to do as he elevates us in the positions or give us the gifts and the talents and abilities. So that's why I'm so thankful for those of you that have actually stepped up to the plate to help and volunteer and do stuff, because it takes a community of people, right? It's not just one or two or three or four or 10 people. How are you going to raise a whole nation of people and don't have the people needed to support it, right? And you can see there in verse 5 that it was important that it says the people to be enrolled by what? Their genealogies. So you got to know your genealogy, at least the most that you can know. It's important, right? So it was important to reestablishing who Israel is. How, I think there's a way. Some people act like there's not a way to find out if you're Judah or Levi or all those other nations. But if you know what nation you come from, right? Like the Igbo people, a lot of them say they, from Gad. So if you connect to that particular clan, they got other clans that connect to Judah and other stuff like that. But if you can connect to that particular clan, there you go. You'll know where you come from, right? Some of them know who they come from. So the genealogies and stuff is so important for who we are and what Yah is trying to do through us. All right. So next. So I'm coming to an end now, but out of all this saying, we can have a relationship with him, and we can't fully get in line without the son, right? The father loves the son. And how can we omit his son when the father won't omit him, right? He continues to talk about him. And sometimes in our community, some people are rejecting the son, and I don't see how you do that, right? That's part of his plan. So here in John 3:31, it says, he who comes from above is above all. He who is of the earth is from the earth, and he speaks of the earth. He who comes from the heaven is above all. What he has seen and heard of that he testifies, and no one receives his testimony. He who has received his testimony has set his seal to this, that Yah is true. For he whom Yah has sent speaks the words of Yah, for he gives the Ruach without measure. Gives the Ruach without measure. Wow. The Father loves the Son and has given all things into his hand. So it's like, going back to some of the earlier, I think it's Psalms 2. I might be wrong with that. But it says, show homage to the Son, or you basically will be destroyed. like how can you overlook who Yahushua is? That was from the beginning. How do you overlook that he's divine? All things has been given to his hand. Even though we have the Most High, who's the Father, he still respects his Son. And we can't just overlook him. So it's very important to understand his role and who he is and what he done for us. Because in, 1 Corinthians 15 Talks about, you know, all the things will be given to him until his enemy become his footstool. So, and then he will give the kingdom to the Father. So all things happening. So he's still ruling, right? He's still giving it. He's ruling the power of the Father, just like a king and a prince, right? Prince still has power. You can't just say, "Oh, I'm not going to listen to you. I'm going to just listen to the king." The prince, like, okay, I'll make sure your head is chopped off just like everybody else's, right? Like you still got to respect the prince as well. So in verse 36, he who believes in the Son has eternal life, but he who does not obey the Son will not see life, but the wrath of Yah abides on him. So y'all gonna be mad if you don't mess. You know, he loves his son just like we love our children. Go mess with a mother's son or a father's son, they're gonna be protective. They ain't gonna let you just do anything to their child, right? So in the same way, when it comes to his son, Yahusha, he's not gonna let us treat him any kind of way. So we got to make sure we reverence him as well as the Father. All right. So next. So this is the part where he talks about he chastises us, but he did not depart from us. So just like in Deuteronomy, right? That's all in Deuteronomy. A lot of the stuff that we just read from before is coming out of Deuteronomy before they even make it into the promised land at all. So they haven't even made it into the promised land. And he's already talking about things that's going to happen after the promised land. Sorry, something's going on with my computer here. But I'll try to start reading it from there. It says, "See, I have taught you statutes and judgments, just as Yahuwah, my Yah, commanded me." So this is basically Moses talking to the people, right? Because we know that he's about to, go on Mount Pisgah and not make it in, just look into as they go in because he struck that rock. That's why I tell people I'm not striking that rock. So we don't do as much stuff that I would like for us to do. I'll just sit and wait until we get through this period dry spell. And then once people start coming together, it's just, going to be what Yah has called us to do. But I'm not going to get frustrated. I'm not going to lose out. So, I've kind of took a step back. And when I do, that's when people start stepping forward. So I praise Yah for those people who have done so, no matter if you're close or if you're afar, right? And it says that you should do thus in the land where you are entering to possess it. So keep and do them, for this is your wisdom and your understanding in the sight of the peoples who will hear all the statutes and say, surely this great nation is a wise and understanding people. This is what they're supposed to say about us. We're a wise and understanding. Are they saying that now? Not yet, because we're not aligned. For what great nation is there that has a God, El, so near to it, as is Yahuwah, our Yah, whenever we call on him? That's how close we want Yah to be there, right? That we know we're in his favor and something happens, just like they prayed with the time of Mordecai and Queen Hadassah, that they prayed to him and they got deliverance, right? Just like he said it earlier, that sickness and things won't be around us when we call on him because we know we're in perfect alignment with him, right? So those are the things we want to be done. And until then, we just continue to seek him and hope that either our generation or the generations to come will do what's right. But then it says, oh, what great nation is there that has statutes and judgments as righteous as this whole law, which I'm setting before you today. Only give heed to yourselves and keep your soul diligently, so that you do not forget the things which your eyes have seen, and they do not depart from your heart all the days of your life, but make them known to your sons and your grandsons. We got to pass it from generation to generation. That's why it's important for us to be good parents, good fathers, and children to honor your parents, right? Honoring your fathers and your mothers, right? It's so important. So you can increase into your life, right? So even when we all get aligned, sometimes, even though we as individuals sometimes try to do right, there is still persecution, just like we said about Daniel. Daniel was doing right, but he still was exiled, right? Because his people didn't do right. So even when it comes to that, sometimes it's like we can't get our deliverance because as a whole, nation as a whole, we're not where we need to be. So we just ask Yah to have mercy upon us, and he seems to have grace and mercy where he chooses to have grace and mercy. But sometimes he even uses us as a sign and a symbol for other people, just like he did with the people, that young guy that was at the temple, and was it Paul or Peter, end up healing him. And it said, not because, was it Paul or Peter? Well, I'm sorry, I'm thinking about Yahusha. And he said, it's like, why was the man crippled? And he said, not because he did anything wrong, not because what his parents did anything wrong, because it was basically being used as a testimony. So even if you're doing what's right and you're dealing with sicknesses or problems and you're, that you outside of your control can handle, just know that Yah can still use you as a testimony. Don't give up, right? So in verse 10, it says, remember the day you stood before Yahuwah, your El at Horeb. So going back to that covenant, when Yahuwah said to me, assemble the people to me, that they may hear, that I may let them hear my words, so they may learn to fear me, reverence me all the days they live on earth, and that they may teach their children. So he goes back to talking about teaching your children. So that's why I say in Purim and these events, make sure your children know what's going on. Don't just leave them out and, ask your children, say, hey, you know what we're doing today? Why are we doing it? Nah, okay, let's sit down. Go find you a cartoon, do whatever you got, a coloring book, something, so they will know what's going on, right? So it says, you came near and stood at the foot of the mountain, and the mountain burned with fire to the very heart of the heavens. Darkness and cloud and thick gloom. Then Yahuwah spoke to you from the midst of the fire. You heard the sound of the words, but you saw no form, only a voice. So he declared to you his covenant, which he commanded you to perform, commanded us to do. That is the 10 commandments. Do we even keep the 10, right? So when we say, remember the Shabbat and keep it holy, right? Remember the Sabbath, right? The day. Shouldn't we do the Sabbath day when he said, remember the 10 commandments, right? To perform them. And he wrote them on 2 tablets of stone. And Yahuwah commanded me at the time to teach you statutes and judgments, that you may perform them in the land where you are going over to possess it. We know that our forefathers messed that up. So watch yourselves carefully, since you did not see any form on the day Yahuwah spoke to you. We can't see him now, right? At least not through the visible eyes. So, but we still are held to his love that we can feel. We can understand his grace and his mercy every time we mess up, right? That he still spares us. And it says, spoke to you at Horeb from the midst of the fire, so that you do not act corruptly and make a graven image for yourselves in the form of any figure, in the likeness of male or female, and the likeness of any animal that's on earth, the likeness of any winged bird that flies in the sky, the likeness of anything that creeps on the ground, the likeness of any fish that is in the water below the earth. All right, so next it says, and beware not to lift up your eyes to heaven and see the sun and the moon and the stars and the host of heavens, and be drawn away and worship them and serve them, those which Yahuwah your El has allotted to all the peoples under the whole heaven. So he gave us stars, the moon, the sun as symbols of days, seasons, and stuff, but not for astrology, right? It's not for us to sit up there and try to calculate with a Libra, Scorpio, what's going to happen with our life and our personality. We already messed up, right? A lot of us have already messed up when it comes to that. It's like he wants to be in control of life over that, right? Not these other things, these other systems. But Yahuwah has taken you and brought you out of the iron furnace from Egypt. Goes back to why we do Passover. Remember how he brought us out to be a people for his own possession as today. Now Yahuwah was angry with me on your account and swore that I would not cross the Jordan. See, he hit that rock and got mad. And that I would not enter the land which Yahuwah your El is giving you as inheritance. For I will die in this land. I will not cross the Jordan, but you shall cross and take possession of this good land. So watch yourself, that you do not forget the covenant of Yahuwah your El, which he has made with you, and make for yourselves of graven image in the form of anything against which Yahuwah your El has commanded you. For Yahuwah your El is a consuming fire, a jealous El, right? So that's the reason why we don't do all these pagan holidays and stuff, right? He's jealous. And, I don't see how people think that's right. It's okay to do stuff that has pagan gods' names, Easter and stuff, right? Like, it has nothing to do with Yah. They try to say it's the resurrection. It's not even on the right date, right? When everybody knows that he wasn't born on Christmas, and just look up December 25th, you'll see it's the sun god. We know all this stuff. Valentine's Day and all these made up things that's not in the Bible that has association to other gods, and we try to justify it. He said, don't do it. He's jealous, right? So it says, when you become the father of children and children's children, and have remained long in the land, and act corruptly, and make an idol in the form of anything, and do that which is evil in the sight of Yahuwah your El, so as to provoke him to anger. So just like we talked about how West Africans, right, they do libations and some things, but we got kicked out of Israel. So now those things have been passed down to us. But in verse 27 says, Yahuwah will scatter you among the peoples. That's where we are now. And you'll be left a few in number among the nations where Yahuwah drives you. So a lot of people don't know, with African Americans, our birth rate really hasn't gone up a lot since like way back in the day with slavery and stuff. Went up some, but a lot of other nations that came among us, theirs go up. But they, at one time, I don't know where we are right now. I remember one time looking at it, and people were talking about how, we were like the majority of the South, right? There was more slaves than people when we were a product, but now things have changed a lot, right? In America, we're no longer, the majority in the South and other places as well. Like what changed our birth rate, right? Got Planned Parenthood, you got all these Epstein files and all this stuff that's going on. A lot of stuff was driven towards us, it's just like the times of Haman was planning things against people of Yah. Things are being planned against us, right? There was the whole thing, at least I can speak of North Carolina, but how they were injecting women not to have babies and stuff back in the 60s or 70s. One of my aunts was part of that, right? They were trying not to have increased birth rate around the black community, and the governor easily, I think, asked for forgiveness for North Carolina with that. Right, so there was plans and stuff with chicks making our children sick, and different shots and stuff that people. So all this stuff is like trying to keep us down where we are. You can see it actually being fulfilled. But it says, there you will serve God Elohim's, the works of man's hand, wood and stone, which neither see nor hear nor eat nor smell. But from there you will seek Yahuwah. From the place that we're scattered, you will seek Yahuwah your El. And you will find him if you search for him with all your heart and with all your soul. So he says, when we search for him, we will find him. That's why I always say, knock and the door will be open, right? He said, ask and you'll be given, seek and you will find. All those things that he says, we got to have some action towards it to get back in line with him, right? To recognize him. And when we do that, that's the reason why it would end up blessing us. That's the reason why it's important to know who we are as Israel, to know what he's doing, what his plan is for us as a people. And for the world, right? It's not, like I said, there's other aliens. He said, love the aliens that's among you, right? He has plans for other people. But in the same sense, he has a special plan for us to start some of that. So we got to get aligned with him most definitely. So in 30, it says, when you are in distress, remember I talked about some distress, and all these things have come upon you in the later days, like in the future of the time of Moses. So this is Moses talking about, you're going to go to the land, you're going to do wrong, you're going to get kicked out, and you're going to be found among all these nations, and then you're going to cry back out to them. He's saying this before they even entered the land of Israel. That's just amazing to me. But he says, and all these things have come upon you in the latter days, you will return to Yahuwah, your El, and listen to his voice, those precepts, those commands, those things that he will finally listen to him. And it says, for Yahuwah, your El, is a compassionate Yah. I thought they said the Old Testament God, the New Testament, the Old Testament God was an evil God, the New Testament God is a good God. Like, that's what some Christians teach. He keeps on saying he's compassionate, he's loving, he cares about, even in our mess, that he still loves us, he still cares for us. But he has to chastise us, just like a good parent would do, right? Your child running around doing stuff and breaking stuff and doing all kind of stuff, and you don't chastise them. What kind of love is that, right? Because you're not setting them up but you're setting up for future failure. Something is going to fail. Nobody's going to like them, or somebody's going to do something bad to them. You're setting them up just because they can't act right? So we want to make sure that, in the same way Yah is chastising us, we, in the love of chastising our children and vice versa, right? Yah is going to chastise us because that's what made us. Our parents helped us to be the good children that we are, because we had boundaries, right? We just couldn't do anything we wanted to do. He had boundaries with us, and that made us to be disciplined, right? In the same way, he gave us laws and commandments to discipline us, that schoolmaster, right? So now that we have grown up and matured in the things of Yah, we don't need that schoolmaster no more. We want to do what's right? We have the heart, and that's why he said you got to go beyond the law. That's what we talked about a couple of months ago, right? You have to go beyond the righteousness of the Pharisees, right? It's about the morals of the law, not just the law itself, not just checking the mark. You can't hate your brother, right? It's not just about killing your brother. It's about not hating your brother, right? You got to start doing those things that basically helps your heart to be circumcised. Your heart has to be circumcised. So he said he will not fail you, nor destroy you, nor forget the covenant with your fathers, which he has swore to them. So he's not going to forget the covenant that he has for us, right? He's not going to forget that covenant. And it's very important that we don't forget it as well. All right, last slide. So this is basically talking about, where we need to be, right? It says, trust in Yahuwah with all your heart. That's one of my favorite scriptures from college when I, first got saved, even as a Christian. Didn't know what to do. And when you get confused what you're supposed to do, especially if you're a young man, young woman, you're just growing through, getting your own independence and trying to understand what you do. He tells you to trust in Yahuwah with all your heart and lean not in your understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him, and he shall make your path straight. Do not be wise in your own eyes. Fear Yahuwah and turn away from evil. It will be healing to your body and refreshment to your bones. Honor Yahuwah from your wealth and from the first of your produce, so your barns will be filled with plenty and your vats will overflow with new wine. My son, so he's talking to us as a father, do not reject the discipline of Yahuwah or loathe his reproof. For whom Yahuwah loves, he reproves, even as a father corrects the son in whom he delights. All right, so going down to the last verse, it says, the curse of Yahuwah is on the house of the wicked. So when we go astray, just like the prodigal son, if we don't correct our ways, right, we know that there's a curse upon us. Feels like nothing's going to turn right. Everything's not, because the devil's mad at us, right? We know that he knows that we are his people and he wants to take us down. So any attempt or any situation we allow him to do so, he wants to come into those gaps that have between you and your spouse, between you and your children, between you and not doing right on your job, right? He wants to come in all those cracks in order to bring us down as a people. But it says, but he blesses the dwelling of the righteous. You got to do right. Though he scoffs at the scoffers, yet he gives grace to the afflicted. The wise will inherit honor, but the fools display dishonor. All right, so that's the lesson for the day, that we must make sure that we're in line with the love that he has for us and how much that he loves us so much to get us to this point. Maybe you don't know everything in the Bible and understand what this calling is about, but one thing you do know is where your heart's at in line with him. That's the first thing. Until you get that together, everything else doesn't truly matter, right? Until you get your heart together, wanting to do the things of Yah, and once you plug into Yah, then he's going to direct you down that right path. And I just feel like I've been on that path for decades, right? I got saved when I was 18 and I'm still learning. Like I just showed you early on, I'm still learning, right? And we all need to be learning, right? So if you ever feel like you got complacent, if you haven't increased in your relationship with him or in your knowledge or your understanding, the wisdom that he has given you, if your relationships that surround you is no better than what it was years and years before, there's a problem there that we need to make sure we rectify. And once we do, Yah is going to give us, he's going to make us that Israel that he delights in, his children of Israel, right? That ones that he's called blessed, the Mamleket Kohanim, the holy nation. We can't be holy and set apart if we're not having our hearts set on him. Hallelujah. Do we got any questions or anything out there? No questions?
Somebody asked was part of the New York 12 tribe chart and all black people are Hebrews. I said no, but I don't know if you want to elaborate.
Oh yeah, so the 12 tribe chart, no, even some of the camps have rejected that. So no, I'm not part of that. I think it's like the Bible says, there has to be 4 corners that has to be done. So even we talked about last Bible study, how even people in Asia, right, that talks about the Fiji people and Solomon Island and some of them, they say that they're Israelites. And we also have some, as you saw in my DNA, right, how I have some connections even to the South Pacific. So a lot of African Americans do. So our blood is all around the 4 corners, as Yah has said it was going to happen. And even after years and years of that's why I said just don't go by DNA, because some people who got E1B1A, they look white, right? Because they had 3 years of integration with a European descendant. And even though your paternal line would still be the same, right? Y will still be all the way Y. If if you're descendant of a black man, it's going to stay Y. But the same way when it comes to some people of our nation that might have J or R, like we talked about, if there's somebody who's raped, then Deuteronomy 28 says your women will be raped, right? So we know that, some of that DNA is going to get at us, but what if that person continues to dwell with Israel, right? So we know that there's some changes that has to happen, even in those 400 years of, 3 generations, it says, of integrating. So now that you can those descendants become part of Israel. So no, I don't believe in the 12 tribe chart, even though I think there's some relevance to, some of the people that they talk about, because they, like the Awaka Indians, right? Native Americans, they say they're black, right? Taino, they also call them. Columbus said he came and he saw some people speaking Hebrew. Who are those people? How are they Native Americans, right? And why does some of the books, scholarly books, say that South American Native Americans were black looking? They were black people, right? So what does that mean? And then, is there a separate nation? Everybody's not Israel. Some people are Moabites, Ammonites. Just because you got Hebrew connections doesn't mean that you're Israel. So it's just like now a Shemitic is, Muslim. He's Shemitic, right? So you got a lot of other people, Bedouins and all the others. A lot of different people are Shemitic, don't mean they're Israel. So just like in the United States, it's the same. Just because, there are other nations mixed even with our people. Question is that 3-4 generations, are they still along with, the same Israel nation that was from the beginning? And more importantly, is your heart where it needs to be, rather if you're Israelite or not, right? So even strangers will still make it to heaven or make it to the kingdom if they cleave to the Israelite, as in Yahusha, the Israelite. All right. Thank you for asking. Is that it?
That's it. I guess you answered the question too. He said something about are all blacks Hebrews. But,
I mean, well, the question is, what is black? So a lot of times people say black, and what is black? Is black just African Americans? So we know that racial, there's more than just black and white people in the world, right? We got Ham, Shem, and Japheth that got off the boat. So what do we call black? Is Ham black? Are they Israelites? No, right? Because Ham is a whole nother nation of people. You have to be through the line of Shem, right? And all Shem black? No, right? So we have to make sure that we define first what is black. I think we've been so ingrained with, in which, I use the term too, Black History Month, right? Say black there, I say black people, just because I'm in the Western Hemisphere and that's what we relate to. But I think we have to get to a point where we start calling ourselves a nation of people, right? We're Israelites, right? That's our ethnicity. Don't mean our religion, our beliefs and all that is aligned with the Bible. You can be an atheist and still have the blood of Israelite. But the question is, goes back to the heart, right? Are we truly Israel from the heart? That's the thing. Are we living the life that he's called us to live? And, he says strangers and aliens, those among us could actually, once again, gets to the kingdom. So black, you got to first define black, and then we can go from there. But until we define what black is, it's irrelevant, right? You say all African Americans, yeah, I would think all African Americans are Israelites, at least, if not 199.9, right? So just because of the integration of African Americans that stay within their, people and interbreeding, I think all African Americans are. If in some of the other countries, they try to whiten us out intentionally. I'm not just using that as a racial term. In Brazil, they actually had a campaign to integrate us with the more of the European, and it actually helps them from a society standpoint if they integrate their children are lighter than them, and it was actually pushed to do that way. So, there's been societies that have, just like in the Bible with Shechem, when he raped Dinah, and he said, let us integrate with you, trying to get rid of them as a people. So that is genetics. That's Planned Parenthood. There's Margaret Sanger said she wanted to get rid of the inferior races, or however she put it, right? The hated races or something. So there's always attacks against us, but Yah has a way of being just like the children of Israel, as we are in Egypt, whenever they tried to throw the babies in the sea, and we just multiplied, right? So Yah has his way. So anything else? Thank you for asking. Oh, Mr. Nathan. Yeah, I'm glad you all have joined us, most definitely. Thank you for coming to be a part. Antoine McKenzie. I don't see him in there. Where is Antoine? Oh, up top. Hey, Shabbat Shalom, Antoine. Thank you for joining. The Bogans? Oh, hey, Bogans. Oh, Bogans, cousin Bogans. Good to see that. Yes, much love to you both.
And this is Miss Selena's, I guess, first time.
Oh, it's your first time. Thank you for coming, Miss Selena. I appreciate that. Hopefully you enjoyed it as well, Selena. Hopefully you enjoyed it as well. And feel free, anybody, let us know if you're interested in being part of the Bible studies. Sometimes I carry stuff over and I don't want to lose people, but I always tell people this is thousands and thousands of years of history in scripture. So, it's going to take a while to get through all of it. So, sometimes I try to expose people early and, step by step, y'all will get us there. As long as we continue diligently seeking him, we'll get there. But if you ain't got any questions, please feel free to ask. And, hopefully we can do more here in the near future.
And
Avi Aki. Thank you, Avi Aki, for asking those questions as well. Yeah, we definitely want to build together. I love all my people, no matter what their background is. Not saying that's yours one way or the other, but I don't care if they're in the camp, if they're in the church, if they're Black Jews or Messianic, whatever. I love all our people. We definitely need to figure out by asking questions, right? We shouldn't feel upset because people ask us questions. That's how we build, right? That's how we know. I know sometimes people got agendas with it, but I'm a person that don't care. I want to make sure I reach our people because I know 10 other people got the same question. So feel free to ask in respect, of the people that's around. We don't want to get too out there, but you know what I'm saying. So much love to you. All right, is that good? Anyone? All right. Thank you all for being involved and joining. And like I said, don't forget to sign up for the luncheon tomorrow. I want to see some of you out there, y'all willing. So please, give time for us to sit down and talk and ask more questions, and I can do my best to answer what I can. I can ask y'all some questions too, so that's good. Got a question? Okay. So let us pray. Turn towards Jerusalem. Dear God, we just thank you for just allowing us to come together as your people, even online throughout all the four corners. We thank you for people who have a true heart is seeking you. And we ask you to help us as together, all of us, to have wisdom. I know my wisdom falls short at time and knowledge. And I thank you for continuing to pour in me and helping me to learn. And so I can share. But, even from our community, thank you for all the wisdom and knowledge that you allowed us to bless where other people share, even with me. So I'm learning as well. And we just ask you to help us to continue to grow together and let no weapon formed against us shall prosper. For we know that there's the enemies around us that try to, pull us from your plan, and help us to protect us. Please protect us from our own heart, because sometimes our own heart gets us moving astray, and that's even more damaging than others. So we ask you to bless us, help us to love one another, help us to grow together and be your kingdom of priests as you designed us to be, as you called us to be from the beginning. We love you as your children. We thank you for loving us as our Ab, our Father. And we ask you to bless those that are sick among us, those that are dealing with situations in their life. We ask you to, bring those blessings onto them, for the power we know you have is unlimited, is unfound, that you can turn situations that others say is hopeless into being great miracles and testimonies for us. So we just thank you for the testimonies that have already been presented before us, and we also are in expectation of hearing even more. And we love you and we praise you. Be with us until we're able to meet again. In Yahushua HaMashiach's name we do pray. Hallelujah. Amen. Amen.